is it this one where the Razor Crest got blew up, or is it the next one?
Yeah, this is the one where the Razor Crest gets blown up.
So like the moment that fucker got blew up, and the moment he said, "I'm gonna make sure that we save that kid," I knew from that moment, mark my words, they're gonna kill Boba Fett in the next episode, probably.
I thought this was the one where the minnow sank and they all got stranded on the island.
I was wrong, but you know what? What a way to be wrong, huh? What a way to be wrong.
Indeed. Everyone who were confused by that opening, welcome to this spoilerific review of the season finale, or rather the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. That's what we're going to be discussing here today. It's going to be...
Hey, I don't know about 80% wrong. I'm more like 80% right most of the time. This is one of the few times I was wrong. Give me that.
We shall get into it. But anyway, joining us to discuss all that is back again, Mr. H Reviews. Welcome back to Midnight's Edge.
Hello. It's been a long time since we've done one of these.
Yeah,
and Mr. Tickle Trunk even says Script Doctor and Mr. H. Great indeed. And the other guest, as introduced by Tickle Trunk here, Script Doctor. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's wonderful to be here to talk with you all about Star Wars.
Exactly. So everyone has been warned. There's going to be spoilers here. So let's just jump right into it. How freaking awesome was that end?
Who's going first?
Well, I think I already gave like a hint to what I thought about it. Okay, so let's do the episode as a whole from beginning to the end. Script Doctor, your take on this episode?
Currently, it's still similar to what I tweeted earlier this morning. It was mostly underwhelming, but it had some fine points. I think the post-credit scene was the one that piqued my interest the most out of everything, actually. There was one moment during the climax that I really enjoyed, and I wish there was more of that. But outside of that, yeah, it felt kind of run-of-the-mill for the season overall. But I liked some of the resolutions, and I liked the setup of a new conflict that happens with the Mandalorian and Bo-Katan. So that also kind of piqued my interest a little bit. But I sadly for me, it just didn't put me on the edge of my seat as I was hoping it would when I pressed play.
All right, let's hear from someone who might have been more excited from the moment he pressed play, namely Mr. H.
I loved it. Oh, it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. Really good. I thought. I mean, I haven't been here for the reviews, have I? But we
just did the last 2 episodes real quick. What was it?
3 actually.
Yeah, My point is, I don't know what other people have been saying. In my reviews, I was like, "Yep, of course, we are." This was the inevitable build-up. It was obviously always going to culminate in everyone banding together for this big ragtag team situation, and I just thought it was great. I thought it was very well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that ending was heart-wrenching, so good, and I want to get into like the narrative that they've been establishing for the first and second season. They've been laying down these things about him breaking the creed for certain bits and pieces and stuff like this, and it all culminated in that final act. And that's why it was such a tearjerker, or it kind of pulled on your heartstrings. I can't because it's against my creed. We don't take the mask off. Blah blah blah. All this kind of stuff. We've seen Baby Yoda glance at other people's faces, and then boom, he does it. It's just so good. It was great. The setup was fantastic. It was great. Really well done.
That was a great payoff. I agree with that part. Like, that's one of the things I also enjoyed is the emotional connection between him and the child, and everything that they've been setting up about the creed and the questioning the creed, which was the previous episode also doing.
Well, that's the thing, because I know some people have written articles saying that there's they've got an issue with him breaking the creed, and it's like, that's the point. That's the point. It's character development. Okay, if you don't understand that, then you don't understand writing. And please, God, don't ever write anything.
I've heard the argument. Yeah, I've heard the argument a few times about how weapons are his religion, and it's like, yeah, that may be the case, but the concept of the story is to challenge that belief and to put him in a position where he has to make a choice.
Exactly, and then you learn what is more important to him, and at that point, at the end, what's more important to him? Like a proper farewell to Grogu, and where Grogu's happy as well, and it was just so touching. It was very, very well done.
I think they missed one cool point, which is the Mandalorian should have pulled out that little knob and ball thing that the kid plays, and he should have said, "I'll hold on to this for you."
Yeah, I thought.
I thought like R2D2 was going to pull out one of his one of his little mechanical arm things, and there was going to be something similar to it on him that Mando was going to make a reference to.
I think maybe that was why he gravitated to R2, was because he has that round shape, I think. And
True. But it was just so well done. So well done.
And it could be even, and I'm really stretching here, it could be maybe one of the reasons why he gravitated towards that in the first place. He was getting vibes from Luke anyway. You know, like and the whole connection with R2, and who knows.
But I will say this as well, is that this is so, we rag on the sequel trilogy, right? And a lot of it is because they attempted to subvert expectations far too much. There always has to be expectations. You can't subvert expectations on the emotional element, and certain things that are set up have to be paid off. And this is why this is such a well-liked ending by the vast majority of people, because they set up all of these things. Can you imagine if we got to the end and then all that happened was a bloody Sith Lord came in and chopped them all up? You'd be like, what the fuck was that?
It'd be definitely a bigger turn.
Yeah, but my point is, and I don't want to talk about the sequel trilogy. But my point is that was so they laid the framework for it perfectly all the way through the series. So to get that payoff was just it's great, really, really good. And then it was just I don't know, it was just good, really, really good. Liked it a lot.
Rob, what did you think?
I believe he's.
I think he just got a phone call
away.
Oh yeah, well, fine. Tom, then, what did you think?
Wow, and wow.
Oh, you missed it. You should have been like, wow, wee wow.
Wow, wee wow. Yeah. Wow, wee wow. It's funny. I just actually watched Borat and Borat 2 last week.
Well, there is a conversation about Borat to be had, by the way.
Absolutely. We'll have to discuss that afterwards. The first part of the episode felt pretty by the numbers. It almost got redundant to a point with the amount of stormtroopers they were dealing with, and it's like, okay, come on. Is the Empire really this incompetent? And you got a ship that big with this many people, and compared to 4 people who were storming the ship, it got I got to a point where I was just I was falling out of it a little bit, and then like after you had Boba Fett like basically taxi them there, and then he takes the fuck off, and I'm like, okay, so he's not going to help at all. And I'm like, okay, then that means he's going to come back later, and possibly my predicted ending was going to happen. But oh no, he didn't come back at all. So like, I was like, all right, well then the Jedi show up, and I'm like, that they're not going to bring Luke in. That's not Luke. No way, that's Luke. And then we see him in color, and it's like the green lightsaber, and they're teasing. Like the more they teased it, I'm like, there's no way that's Luke, because they want us to think it's Luke. And like
as soon as I saw the X-wing, I'm like, that's Luke Skywalker.
Well, yeah, I know. I kept thinking that's Luke Skywalker, but it can't be because it's too obvious. Well, I was riveted. I was on the edge of my seat. But afterwards, I don't know if I was excited or if I was like I was after The Last Jedi. I seen a lot of things I liked and I knew or whatever, but then again, there was a lot of stuff I wasn't sure if I liked. And I mean, I was happy to see R2-D2. I was happy to see Luke Skywalker. He looked weird. I don't like the CGI. Why they didn't use deep fake is beyond me. It really didn't make any sense to me because it looks like garbage. But I was happy.
Stuff they used for Tarkin and Leia,
and
right?
Leia, that's what I
don't think he looked too bad. But
I thought he looked like shit.
Copy. Maybe that's
I thought it looked bad.
There was definitely some weird pixelation and
it
the
looked like
lighting
a
and the
fucking
shininess.
video game.
Yeah, the lighting balance was all off. And also, they did something with Mark Hamill's voice. They tweaked it a little bit because it was almost unrecognizable. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, like, fine. That's your opinion. So now let the non-Star Wars fan talk. This was fucking epic. That's like. This was an awesome episode. I don't know what the hell you're complaining about. Like, all you Star Wars fans, I don't know what the hell you're complaining about. How can you not like this? What the hell is there to complain about here? Can you not see how awesome this is? How can you not like this thing?
That's why you're not a Star Wars fan.
Like, yeah, probably not. It must be something like that.
We're Mandalorian fans.
This is awesome, and this episode right here was the best one yet by far. And to me, as someone who's at best a casual fan, there were so many things in here that I thought were incredibly well made. This is the first time I've actually been excited during a lightsaber fight. Yeah, they've been fun and stuff like that, but when Gideon and Mando went head against,
that was brutal.
Yeah, it was really brutal, and I was like thinking, Jesus, be careful with how you kick, because you might lose a leg here.
That's what I was.
Yeah, because this is like the first time when I was like thinking, fuck, we don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, here you can easily lose an arm or a leg. Yeah, it doesn't cut through the Beskar, but the Beskar doesn't cut like through so much, does it? Like, for instance, the way he was like holding that spear, well, it doesn't protect his fingers. All Gideon had to do was basically slide his blade alongside that Beskar spear, and that would be.
There was twice Gideon could have cut his fucking head off, and he didn't. His arm was free.
I know,
and I was like, that was the dumb fight. That bothered me. I'm sorry, and I'm gonna say this right now because I see some things in the chat, and I know you're mostly kidding to a point, Andre. But here's the thing: there is a division in the fans right now. There are people who are not allowed to criticize the Mandalorian. Because it's like, oh, why can't you just be happy with what you're getting? Like, that's what we were told from the other side for 3 fucking years.
But what?
And then you have there is, because here's the thing: we got shoveled shit. For over 3 fucking years.
Yeah, of course.
And so are we just expected to go, woo, Luke, yay! And we're supposed to be happy and that fixes everything? No, that doesn't fix everything.
No one's saying it fixes everything.
But you know what it does?
No, but when people say no, just to be fair here now, Andre, when people say, well, what do you guys expect, or what is gonna, that comes off as very condescending, and just like what people were saying for 3 years. Period. I mean, that's why it feels.
That's my opinion. Like,
and I get it. It's a good show, but I gotta call it out, because there is a big division right now between the fan base and whether or not you can criticize or not criticize the Mandalorian.
Oh, I'm not saying you can't criticize. I'm just saying I don't understand what there is to criticize. That's the difference. So
I've got no idea what you'd be criticizing. Like for this episode specifically, I've got no idea what you would be criticizing, because one, it was always going to culminate in this build-up anyway. Now, the arrival of a Jedi was foreshadowed. Who would you have preferred to turn up? Ahsoka? She's already proven herself to not be that interested, so it'd be weird if she came back. People were speculating Mace Windu. I mean, he's dead. Like, just get over it.
We don't know that. I mean, he can show him.
He's pretty well. Okay, fine, but he hasn't turned up. So the speculation is kind of besides. Obviously Luke coming back. It makes sense.
It can. Luke could be the preferred one, but you also have an opportunity where you can introduce a brand new Jedi character that pretty much suggests that the Jedi are expanding.
After Return of the Jedi.
Well, this is like 5 years or so. It's about 5 years.
Not much though. He's not been doing that much, has he?
No, he hasn't changed his clothes in 5 years. Is that?
No, but what would he have been doing? I don't understand. Like, it's
finding and training other Jedi. I don't know. That's a good question.
No, I'm glad he showed up. I'm happy he showed up. But my whole
there's a bunch of people saying he's like, oh, he was too OP. It's like, mate, it's Luke Skywalker. What? Do you want him to be a bitch? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand that as a critique. People are like, Luke Skywalker came in and he just got rid of everyone. It's like, well,
yeah, that's awesome.
He's Luke Skywalker. That's the point,
certainly what I wanted. Isn't that what everyone wanted? It's like, didn't everyone want him to come and be the
Yeah.
superior Jedi, just like this. Isn't
Like-
this
like
what
he was
we all
supposed
wanted
to
in the
be.
sequel trilogy?
Yeah, like he was supposed to be, like the character, you know, has been made out to be all this time, and then was let down in the in the sequels and stuff like that. Like, surely that's what you want.
Big time.
Yeah, my favorite part of Luke Skywalker's moment was when he used the Force to crush the insides of that
Oh,
robot.
good,
And I'm
wasn't
like, I would prefer him to do something similar of that with Force powers throughout the entire journey from the hangar to the bridge, because, I mean, I like lightsabers and all, but I think they should be used sparingly. And
Yeah.
but that's just me. But I mean, yeah, that thing at the end, that was great. I was like, oh, if you had Luke walk through that and like had the droids like shoot each other through like a force manipulation or what have you, and break all those parts and stuff, and there's just walk strolling through casually, yeah, he would have been considered overpowered. To that argument could be made fairly, but it also shows that he's grown as a Jedi, where he's a lot more easily able to control the Force, and he's much better at it, and he's more adept. And that on top of that, it also shows that you only really need a lightsaber when you're battling a Sith or dark side Jedi, because
someone with another
that's what it's
lightsaber.
really there for. I mean, it doesn't need to be an attack weapon; it should be like a defensive weapon. And if he's just strolling through, doing it casually is, I would say, far more badass than him just whipping that lightsaber around like a 17-year-old kid who just loved the Revenge of the Sith.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought
it's
it was
fun. I'm not
they
disputing
paid
that.
off everything.
Yeah.
They paid
Oh, I
off
was riveted by
absolutely
the ending. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm saying, like we got to be able to have a point where everybody can be able to also criticize it to a point too, because
absolutely.
otherwise, it's getting to this
Misunderstand me
point.
wrong. I'm not saying that you cannot criticize. I'm just saying that from my point of view, this was perfect, and I genuinely don't understand what people would have wanted differently. Of course, and does that mean everything is okay now? No, it is not okay, because the sequel trilogy, that still happened. That needs to be erased. Only when that is erased can things be okay. But from my point of view, if this is not a huge step in the right direction, what would be?
Well, also as well, like
Getting rid of the trilogy. This all still leads to the road.
That's just what I'm saying. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know.
No, it definitely does, Andre, mate. Absolutely.
I know.
We're still headed for that. That's where we're headed.
It looks that way. It looks that way.
Specifically says,
Tom,
I've got what I needed from him. I've got his blood, and that will lead to order coming back to the Empire, which is
I know, but what?
But
I know, but what if something happens later on? Because this is what we've been hearing, that there's going to be like small differences, and what if everything looks to go that way, and suddenly something happened that changes it completely? What if proverbially Snoke gets a bullet in the head early on or something? I'm not saying that's going to happen. But there has to be someone in there that
just
considers
create
it.
better stories around that, as in the universe around it. That's all they're going to do, and that's fine.
That could be.
That's fine by me. I don't need them to wipe it off the face of the planet. I'm not that invested in it. But if they create some good shows around it, i.e., Mando chasing down Snoke bloody farmers and all this kind of crap, like I'd be interested in that. If it's done right, this is the thing. I think that's all they're going to do. So Disney's playing. They can't wipe it. They can't. They're not going to do that. They've got to save face somehow. So how they're going to do that is clearly just write better stories around it to make you, think less.
Yeah,
if they wanted to save face, then surely of all the stuff that they have announced, wouldn't there be something to take place in that era of the sequel trilogy era? But there's nothing. There's nothing in that era. There's what?
Isn't Rogue Squadron that?
Nope.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing at all in the sequel trilogy era.
But
everything.
What are the timelines then? Tell me.
The timelines
before the OT and just after the OT.
Yeah, everything is around the original trilogy. Everything.
So Rogue Squadron is that? Is it?
Rogue Squadron takes place between Return of the Jedi and I guess the Force Awakens.
And closer,
to
Return of the Jedi. It's going to be like just after Mando. Like it's one of the Mando spin-offs.
So they are building to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to say that these shows are really just chess pieces being moved into position for whatever type of direction or attack they want to make with regards to the sequel trilogy, if that ends up being the case. But I mean, Andre, I think you're right. They brought in something here that fans wanted, and that was also a little rewarding, and it could steer the whole franchise into a more positive direction. I don't dispute that at all. I think that could be very well the case and intention.
Yeah, I see that they are building towards the sequel trilogy, but at the same time, when they see the fan response to The Mandalorian, and they have the actual box office numbers for the sequel trilogy, they have all the merchandise sales, they have all the data which suggests that this was a disaster. They cancelled the Rise of Skywalker comic book adaptation. There is nothing in that era. It's dead. And then you have all the love and everything in this era right now. And then give it a few years and a regime change and everything like that. Why would them then be bound to go into the direction of these movies that are universally disliked when they have established a multiverse in Marvel, they've established a multiverse in DC? Why would they slavishly have to move things into a direction that everyone hates?
Because the galaxy is a lot bigger than the DC, planet on Earth, and the same as the Marvel planet on Earth. They're just going to make shows in the timeline around it. They're going to circumvent the main story by just like they have done right now with Mandalorian.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what they're doing. They're going to be in this area right here, and they're not going to like lead directly into anything that is to come there. I think we'll see what happens. But I think that they're keenly aware of what's going on. So yeah, Tom, you want to read the
well, this kind of answers, I think, the questions everybody was saying earlier about whether or not they're getting rid of the sequels. This is a quote from Favreau. I don't want to talk about anything that might be fun for people to discover. We do have conversations. Part of what's fun to see if we could merge the worlds of the original trilogy, the prequels, the sequels, the Clone Wars, and what's been considered canon up to this point, and what's been considered part of Legends. I think this show offers an opportunity to bring all those elements, so no matter what your flavor of Star Wars ice cream you like, there will be something to enjoy. But you're asking the right questions. So
that's a great statement. Yeah.
Nice and vague and can go in any direction. Future-proof.
I was just going to say that was one of the most political answers I've ever had.
It's great. It's properly political for a show like this, where they say, listen, we have ideas, things that you like could be in it, things that you don't like could be in it, but at the same time, we're trying and we want to merge some things around, and that's the open possibility. And I think marketing it as the potential is to its advantage.
No, I mean, here's my thing, Andre, and I know you wanted me to be excited about Luke, and I was, but my resistance to that...
No, that's entirely up to you.
No, my point is that Disney wants that too, and it's like, I'm at this point where Star Wars is still that spurned lover of mine that, to where it's like, I'm not so sure I'm ready to just forgive and forget. And it was cool what you did with Luke, but there's still issues here that need to be resolved.
Communicate that. Communicate this was awesome, but we need to have this sequel trilogy. We need to have that stricken from canon. Scream that from the rooftops, but at the same time, give them the feedback. This is the way to go, and that's all I'm saying. Because I've never said, "Oh, it's all forgiven now." I never said that.
No, and I'm not saying you are, but
this is the step in the right direction. So all we have to do now.
Yeah, we should support the steps
very clear in our communication that continue this direction, and then in time, to go all the way for forgiveness, what you need to do is remove all this, make sure it never happened. Like put a bullet in the brain of Snoke, do something. That's anything. I don't know what, but
unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that. And what a lot of people want is basically an apology, and they're not going to get that. We may get the apology tour, as Rob and I like to call it, which this obviously is. This was a big stop on the apology tour, if I do say so myself. Yeah.
This is the Madison Square Garden, the giant stadium, the LA Coliseum of the Star Wars Lucasfilm apology tour. This is a huge like marker on the road to trying to win back the fans, because we got to see what we wanted. We wanted to see Luke Skywalker be a hero. And it's like, yes, this is what we want. You know.
But here's the other problem now. He'll show up for this. Where the fuck was he for his sister?
Yeah, true. See, I was gonna. See,
is that, you mean when in like the sequel thing? You mean right now, or
yeah, in the future sequel?
Yeah,
and
but you
Anna, I sent you the link.
without
Anna, get in here if you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andre would love your positivity.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Forget about you can't change the sequels now. They're done. They happened. They were done by someone else. And here's like the thing. Yeah, I'm not saying forgive Disney. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is look at what was done by this crew. And you can, of course, ask the question, well, where was Luke in the sequels? Well, the sequels are
no, I get that, but here's my thing: is a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this was a big fuck you to Rian Johnson." That's very true. It could be, but that still doesn't change where the road leads. Well, unfortunately, until they actually do something to change it.
I don't think.
Yeah, and they're not going to change that before the fan base give them a very, very clear signal. Change that. We love this. Continue this direction. Change that. And for that, I just believe that. Disney needs to see a loud and clear reaction that holy shit, this really was the way to go, and there is a way to salvage this. Now, how do we salvage this? And that's all that can be done at this point. But for that to happen, it's important to give credit where credit is due. And no one has said forgive everything. No one has said that. But give some feedback that this is the way.
Well, and it's not you. There is this faction of the fan base though that is really. It's almost like we're almost like infighting within ourselves at this point, and I hate seeing it. And it's gotten just to the point where either you're not allowed to have an opinion on it, or you have to pick one side or the other, and it's just getting ridiculous. It's almost like a smaller version of the original creation of the original division of the whole.
But you've also got elements of, parts of the fan base that were ripping on the first season of Mandalorian by saying it had like a Disney composer in-house when it was actually the music was composed by an Academy Award-winning epic fucking.
Don't get me started on the music because I hate it. I hated the dubstep in this last episode. It felt so fucking out of place. What is it with the dubstep and fucking Star
Wars? The robots
were
charging up. Yeah, the weird vibration stuff.
What? No, there's never been anything remotely like that in Star Wars before.
It doesn't need to be because it's not a case of you're looking at it going, oh, this is a bit of score. You're looking at it thinking, is this actually the robots charging up? Is it a bit of score? Is it a combination of the two? I liked it. I thought that was actually really, really well done. I don't see the issue there.
Don't you know all the kids love dubstep, Tom?
Not in Star Wars. If it's Tron, fine.
What?
This is what, the third or fourth time now in this fucking show we've had fucking like dubstep.
It wasn't dubstep.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
It was too when the robots were their theme was dubstep. It was all here, right here. See, even people are saying it worked well with the troopers. I didn't think so, but okay, glad you liked it.
I guess
I didn't even know this.
I hated it. Well, a lot of people have been bitching about the music.
You didn't notice. I didn't know. I was thinking it was music in terms of, is it the robot? Is it the noise of the actual charging systems on the robots or not? I thought it was. I don't know. I thought it was good.
I mean, I like the actual score of like the Mandalorian theme. I thought is pretty cool. It's Star Wars-y.
But also, it doesn't have to match the original trilogy. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have to say like, oh well, we never had this type of music in Star Wars, therefore we never ever will. Like that's a very, very strange stance to take. Creatively,
it just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel in universe. Actually, that's my argument. Is it just feels completely out of place.
Well, then that is subjective, then, isn't it? Because ultimately, for me, it actually sounded like it was quite literally in the universe, like it could have been them actually moving. So that's purely just a subjective, creative element that you just didn't like. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, odd, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no accounting for taste, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Yeah, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. But again, here's like the thing: as I've always been very upfront about, and this is true for Mr. H as well, we are not hardcore fans. I'm as for me, I'm as casual as they go. But what I think was telling is that when Luke Skywalker came here, like for instance, I'm such a casual fan that when it said an X-wing is coming, that meant nothing to me. I was like thinking, oh, it's probably like that dumpy Asian guy from that's going to be in like the Cara Dune series later on. They're setting up that, and then there's like the moment when he stepped out, and I was like, it can't be Luke Skywalker. And then we saw the green lightsaber, and I know that okay, I think that hand. He's the only one that has that. And I saw like the glove hand, I was like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. That was my reaction. And I've never even cared for Luke Skywalker, but that was my reaction to that. This got me to care more about Star Wars than Star Wars itself has done before. So yeah, and I just think it's important to like communicate that you're doing something right now. Keep on doing that and do more of it.
Tell you what,
there's still far way to go still. Yeah, go on, Mr.
I thought they did really well with going back a little bit, going back to Boba Fett. Like we haven't even spoken about Boba Fett, but Boba Fett, in this episode, they solidified Boba Fett's love for Jango Fett as his actual father. That was fucking fantastic. When Bo-Katan was like, take that armor off, you're a disgrace to the armor. You're nothing but a clone. I've heard that voice 1,000 times. And he literally goes, well, you want to watch your mouth, princess, because it'll be the last voice you hear. Instantly. It's like that was my father. Jango Fett was my father, regardless whether I, was my donor or whatever. It was great. That was really, really well done. Because, again, the character of Boba Fett needed to be humanized a little bit. We needed to get it a little bit there. And we needed to see, they painted him out to be a badass now. So we got that. That's great. But having a little bit of him, a bit more backstory to him now that he's the Boba Fett we know, not from the prequels, but now from the original trilogy, I thought that was really, really well done. And just the fact, and also the fact that Disney let them use, and I know it's a weird thing to pick out, but it counts. They let him use the phrase princess in a condescending fashion. When we talk about Disney being majorly woke, you'd think they'd be hot on that, and they did really well.
Good point.
Yeah, to throw that in there, I thought that was really, really good. I thought it was great. I thought that was great as well. Just that the Boba Fett stuff was fantastic. Really, really decent, actually.
I like the dialogue in that scene a lot, actually. That conversation, that tension was pretty good. Yeah, I dug it. The only thing that kind of threw me out of it for like a moment was when Boba Fett uses his grop line on the other chick, and then she manages to pull him off his feet. And I was like, nah, like she should have ran towards him and done that, not pulled him off his feet, because that I didn't buy that on the physics sides.
Yeah, that
he's
was
at least 70 pounds heavier than her.
Yeah, and he used his two. He used his full weight because he actually grabbed his other arm as well, didn't he, with his hand? So
yeah, because like when she flipped him, I'm like, I could believe that because that was more of like an Aikido thing. But like when she just pulls him towards him, I was like, or judo, yeah. Like, but when she pulls him towards him, I was like, I can't buy that. Sorry, like that just yanked me out for like a brief second.
Yeah, and I think some people. Like I didn't see that battle being one-sided either. I thought they were pretty.
No, it wasn't. It was actually quite even. Yeah, I just think that one moment kind of just pulled me out. But then when like they get up and then they do the flamethrowers at each other, I'm like, okay, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very good, very, very good. But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because I just thought that was great. Nice to have that as well.
Yeah, we got a bit more of the politics of the Mandalorian, like how they view those that wear the armor a bit more in detail. I like that too.
I still don't think he looks right with a black cloak underneath, though. That annoys me.
Yeah, same.
I think it looks too much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would have preferred him to find like a proper of like one of those undersuits that the other Mandos have. Doesn't have to be white back like before, but yeah, like lose the skirt and put on something proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, we haven't heard from you. How did well, not at least not so much. How did you view this episode? Rob appears to be busy. Okay.
The
Let's
tumbleweed be a rolling.
yeah. All right. Well, so that was Luke Skywalker. How about Moff Gideon? How did you all feel about the confrontation with him? And
Good.
is that a character that you would like to see again after his attempt to off himself failed so miserably?
I thought it was very in character, actually. So he,
Yeah.
Very cold, very calculating, clearly understood exactly what was happening. So he went immediately down to Grogu. Obviously, that was very in character. He was going to do that. If he didn't, I'd have been really disappointed. And the fact that he says, well, I've got what I want. You can just have him. Knowing full well that Mandalorians, in terms of him being a bounty hunter as well, once they've made a deal, they're going to stick to it. So he knew that when they say, yep, okay, that's fine, the exchange happens, that he could then turn around and double cross him. Perfectly in character and really cold and calculating it and quick, like you need to think on your feet in that moment. And I think he did that really, really well. So yeah, I liked him a lot. It's good.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Yeah. No, because I thought that he was really cool in this episode as well. And it was also cool like seeing that lightsaber fight, because yeah, he's not an expert at using it, and Mando is certainly anything but to me, like, that fight was brutal in a way that the either really, really slow fights of the original trilogy and the overtly stylized fights of the prequel trilogy weren't. Whereas the sequel trilogy, I'm not even going to acknowledge as existing, but like this thing right here, that felt brutal. It felt like more real. It felt like the stakes were higher. Of course, you can feel to disagree, but that's what I felt as someone very casual in terms of like Star Wars in general. So I thought it was brilliant, and he was really cool villain, and I'm glad that they kept him alive, because it would be a shame to lose him so early when the character can be used so much more going forward in all the spin-offs and everything. So this is something that actually has me excited for what comes next. Script.
I like some of the little touches within that fight, like how the darksaber, when it hit the Beskar, especially the spear, it started to glow red and hot, like it was almost doing some damage, or at least had a bit more of a threat to it. And I liked also the fact that it kind of had like a street fight approach to it. It was rough. It was not as elegant or specific. It was all about survival on either side. I dug that to a lot. Like, yeah, there are definitely some issues where you're like, oh, he could have chopped his head off here, or could have stabbed him there. But I did like, I liked it. It was a bit more engaging, more engaging than the fight between Ahsoka and the other lady, because she was just wielding that spear like a bludgeoned weapon, as opposed to a stabbing one. And like you could see the Mandalorian was trying to stab a couple times, but he's mostly on the defensive.
True.
Well,
I think if a fight is engaging, you forgive the certain elements of, oh, well, they could have stabbed you here, or they could have killed you there. If it's fun and it's engaging and it's it's well done, you forgive those things quite.
Yeah, as long as it's a balance, because like you could tell that both characters are actually trying to go for a body part, as opposed to in the sequel trilogy where they're just going for the lightsaber.
Yeah. Tom, you had some thoughts on it.
There was a couple times I was just like, whatever, because like Moff Gideon could have like fucking cut his head off, or why wasn't he just going for the body parts that aren't covered in Beskar or whatever? Like, that's what I kept thinking to myself. But then again, it just was a big setup for the whole thing, now that, him and Bo-Katan got to fight for the Darksaber, which, I mean, they did set it up. She said, I get to fight him no matter what. And I was thinking that through the whole time. I'm like, okay, there was a reason she said that, other than it's got to be more important than just ego. You know what I mean? Like, there had to be more to that. So I guess we know where the season 3 of Mandalorian's going.
Got a good direction, I think. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, it's going to be an interesting cat and mouse kind of thing, I think, because, she's obviously going to be going after him, and he's going to be trying to avoid her. So, like I was saying to Andre before the show, I'm like, yeah, it won't be what a lot of the fans are wanting, but it will be at least something different. It's not going to be surrounding the child and all that. It's going to be.
Well, I love the conflict because it's both parties have the exact same point, which is to have Bo-Katan have the dark saber. Like Mandalorian doesn't want it; he has no care for it or interest at all, and he's perfectly fine in handing it over. And Bo-Katan just knows that on the reputation side of things, within the lore of the Mandalore, especially what we learned from this episode, she can't just take it; she has to fight it for that story and for that honor. And so you have two characters that are arguing with the same goal, but the means of how to get to that goal is where the conflict lies. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they deliver on that in the next season.
Right. That's actually one thing that I thought was a little bit stupid, and I'll admit that because he was like, "Here, take it, I yield." And he should have said, like, "No one has to know. I won't tell. We can tell that you beat him. Like, no one. This never needs to leave this room. As far as the rest of the world knows, you beat him. It's yours, fair and square. I'm happy to do that. I have no stake in this." And then she should have been like, "Yeah, okay, fine. Just everyone be quiet, okay?"
That's a great idea too. That's a great idea too, because that then brings on a secret of illegitimacy within the culture of the Mandalore that you can play fun with dramatically.
Yeah, that's what Moff Diver Gideon was fucking arguing, which, you know, like, that's what set up the whole thing. But I was like, here's my thing. Now, if they start off the next season and it's literally picks up where we left off, and they just uncuff him and he tosses him the lightsaber back and says, "There you go, now fight him," or some stupid shit like that, just so they can get through it, I'll be pissed. Like, yeah, that's just too much to set all that up for nothing. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but you know what I mean?
That would be lame.
Yeah, but I've seen shows that do that. So I'm like, you know, I hope that's
like the drama, yeah.
Where he's like, he's trying to get rid of it, but no one wants it because they have to fight him for it. And so, yeah, no, that would be stupid. I think that the best way would simply be that they hand it to him, or that he hands it over and she accepts it, but then the rumors start coming,
right?
And she has to deal with rumors. Like, that would be a story. So she would rule Mandalore, but then there would be like someone else, not anyone in the room, but someone else would challenge her for the throne and claim that you didn't win that fair and square. Who talked? There's a story. I don't know, like, should have gone that direction instead of like having season 3 be the two versus each other. And we don't know that that's what they're going to do, because I have to give massive credit for the series for being unpredictable, because with all of these side quests and everything, it's really difficult to predict what's going to come next, because I have to admit that in this series right here, I was never able to predict anything until like the minute before it was going to happen.
Well, I'm wondering if they're now going to do a time jump. You know, like, are they going to do a time jump? Are we still going to, like, you know, Grogu? What's going on with him? Like, what's going to happen now? We're going to do a time jump and
are we
back up or what? Like,
on that note, are we sure that there's going to be a Mandalorian season 3? Because I haven't paid too much. So it's not okay. So
there's no way they're going to leave that the way they did.
They left it within their slate for the following, like all the Disney Plus shows. Mandalorian was on there, but that's why they had 9 shows presented at the thing, and plus the Mandalorian. And then what we learned today is that's the 10th one, the Book of Boba Fett show.
Which is filming right now, according to Deadline Hollywood.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think there's going to be a Mandalorian season 3. I have no doubts of that. And I think they're probably going to. I suspect they're probably going to do a little bit of a Game of Thrones style, like back and forth with who has the reigning power, like where the Mandalorian is trying to abdicate and Bo-Katan can't accept that. Which, I mean,
he'll have to fake his death.
Yeah, and then someone in the chat pointed out that apparently Bo-Katan got handed the saber prior. So if there is no fight involved, would that be an issue? Okay, yeah. So here's the other thing too. Like, would they then say if they want to reconcile that, would they say that because Bo-Katan was handed it prior, she never really had it, and that's what caused the discourse and why she rejects it this time? Like, there's an open possibility for that.
They're just disregarding elements, aren't they? Like,
or they just
my guess is Favreau and had never seen Rebels,
come out and said,
Filoni don't give a shit.
We will be changing stuff, so that's
probably don't. Yeah,
he pretty much said in so many words, like Mr. H is just saying, he doesn't give a shit about canon.
Yeah, so I wouldn't get too hung up on what's happened before, because it's actually irrelevant now. To be fair, like, in terms of the minutiae of the situation. Anyway.
And there's part of my problem, and that maybe that's
shame.
why there is such a divide, is you've got Favreau, who is obviously clearly a fan and wants to do good by the fans, and you have Filoni, who's somebody who's been in the mix for a long time and doesn't even give a shit about the canon that he's supposed to be the keeper of. I think that's where you have an inherent issue in just in the mix.
But you know what?
What's that?
As someone that doesn't know any of this stuff, I love it. It's fine.
No, I get where you're coming from, and that's a totally fair assessment. And I'm not saying anybody can enjoy it. I was just trying to point out. I was just trying to point out that there was other people out there that are like, and we've seen it in our own chat where it's like it's not okay to have this, critical opinion of the show.
Yeah, I get that, and I would have preferred if that they found a way to make it so that everything that they say is canon within animation would not be contradicted in any way, shape, or form. I would have preferred that to have been the case. And if they had been really, really careful about it, they could have done that. However, I just know it for myself. I will never watch any of the animated series. I don't care how good everyone says that they are. I look at the animation style and I say, oh, hell no. I don't care about the stories. It's not for me. I will never see them. But here, we get kind of like a continuation at the same time, an introduction. So I understand that here there's a backstory. And I don't see any of the deviances of canon. I would prefer that they weren't there. But the most important thing is that, to me, this is a new hope to use a pun for Star Wars going forward, because they use the best of the best, I guess, and they use that to create a new path forward, and I'm all for that.
Well, just to sort of interject a little bit there is that the individual that you've got highlighted at the moment also said that they are catering to fans who don't care about continuity. Yes and no, because they're also trying to make new fans, and that's what they've done with this show.
Yep, and making new continuity.
And that is the point as well. That's why that is part and parcel of the point. I'm not saying it's right, but you need to take that into the equation here. Is that the stuff that they're looking to kind of glaze over is because they're trying to get new fans so they don't get too roped up into the original lore and the original canon, or so much so like it's not really relevant to them at that point.
I like what you said about bringing in new fans. And again, I would like to stress that there is absolutely no contradiction between staying consistent with what was before, 100% consistent, that they haven't done that. That's pure laziness on their part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They should have done that. But at the same time, this series, The Mandalorian, did something that the sequel trilogy and the prequels, and let's be honest, the original trilogy failed to do. It made me to the point where I can say that, you know what, I'm a fan of The Mandalorian and therefore a fan of Star Wars, whereas I wasn't before.
Oh no, it's not a new fan. That's a great thing.
Whereas the sequel trilogy, you know what that did? That made me like, oh, I don't even want to see this. I suffer through this just because of Midnight's Edge and commitment to everyone that wants my take on the stuff. But I had no desire to watch this. Whereas The Mandalorian, seeing that has actually been one of the highlights of my week every time it's been on.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that. It's been, likewise.
It's a series. It's a series that I genuinely enjoy. Like, for instance, I would never watch anything Star Trek right now had it not been for this channel. But this thing right here, if there was no Midnight's Edge, I'd still watch The Mandalorian.
Yep.
And I'd, because of this, like, I'll pick up the rest of Star Wars too and watch my own headcanon of what matters. That's not everything, but it's going to be the original trilogy. It's going to be the prequels. It's going to be a selection of what is to come on Disney Plus that I will now check out religiously. And maybe I'll even go and get myself some 4K versions of the previous releases of the prequels and the original trilogy. That was never ever happening had it not been for The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I've made it part of my Friday routine. You know, like it's what I do on a Friday. Like I have my set day, you know, of what I'm up to, what I do, and then Mandalorian is a part of that when it's out. You know, I enjoy it. It's good. So yeah,
I'm already looking forward to December of next year when we get the Boba Fett series.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
And of course, the continuation of the Mandalorian, because I was unsure if maybe like the Boba Fett series was the third season, but if it's not, then we get two. If we get Mandalorian and Boba Fett, so much the better.
Well, supposedly Kathleen Kennedy announced that was happening. The Mandalorian season 3 was coming Christmas next year, so apparently so. Also, the same individual that's been highlighted a few, that you've highlighted.
Yeah, that's the OG Star Wars. She's a valued member of our community and a contributor in the Toxic Femininity live shows.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, so the comments that she's making, I completely understand because it's something which I can relate to with respect to the Alien and Predator series. Can completely appreciate that. So like it, yes. The disregard for continuity is lazy. Like, of course it is. Yeah. There's no two ways about it.
And just to kind of bounce off what you're saying, Mr. H, and to speak, I get a lot of people are calling me a whiner and all this shit in the chat, and that's fair, whatever. I'm also speaking for a lot of fans that I don't personally agree with. But this is stuff that I've been told, is stuff I've been seeing on Twitter from people, not just like OG, but in our circle and stuff like that, that they do feel strongly about this, that it's like, just because you throw this out there, we're supposed to, and this is the same thing that we were fed
maybe that's a mindset
for so
thing.
long. Yeah.
And it could be, that's the mindset, isn't it? Like you're sat there saying, oh, they've just thrown it out. It's like, yeah, but also maybe they're, writing a story that they think that you'd like.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe they're not throwing you tidbits to.
No, I get that, but they have a long way to go before we need to just allow ourselves to just be like, let our guard down and be happy. Because honestly, I'm not happy now with this whole Obi-Wan versus Vader thing. That shouldn't happen.
Oh yeah, that's stupid. No, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I made several videos. I can't wrap my head around
like Star Wars, like Anna's saying, baby steps. Exactly. And again, I'm trying to speak for more and beyond myself. I don't even agree with a lot of this stuff that I'm saying per se. It's just I do know that there are fans out there that agree with those fans that I'm sticking up for, I should say. I do agree with what I'm saying, but I don't agree with what they may necessarily feel at the same time. So what I'm doing is trying to speak for a larger portion of the fan base that isn't necessarily being represented on this panel at the same time.
And that is entirely fair. And also, I'm not saying that everyone should now go and support everything. Far from it. Ian even said, I'll be selective. I'll support the direct spin-offs to The Mandalorian that are headed up by Jon Favreau, whereas everything that is under Kathleen Kennedy, that can get bent. And I'd also need to be loud and clear about that.
Yeah, well, I'd also be a bit wary of some of the things that Dave Filoni has been doing. But my main hope is, the things that I'm looking to watch is predominantly anything that Jon Favreau's been doing. Dave Filoni being a name attached to it, I don't actually I couldn't give a toss about. And that would make me a little bit more concerned as opposed to just Jon Favreau. But I just think at the end of the day, like if something's good, good,
if something is good, it's great. And I think there's nothing wrong with taking all the variations and all the movies, the shows, anything else, and saying and just judging them on their own. Like if you like one book but don't like the other one, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like The Mandalorian but you don't like, say, the Obi-Wan series, there's nothing wrong with that. And the reverse is also true. You should be able to judge and enjoy on the merit of each individual one, and on top of that, create your own whole that you want to support. Right? Like I don't see any issues with that.
Well, this is the thing. You don't have to be a fan of everything just because you're a fan of
the property. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because this is what I've had this with Alien and Predator. Like when you say you don't like a certain Predator movie, people are like, "Well, you're not a fan." Then it's like, shut up. That's such a childlike mentality to have.
Yeah. Well, same. It could go the other way too. It's like, I gotta allow those who enjoy Requiem to enjoy it, because it's like, I think that was one of the worst things to ever be put on film since The Cat in the Hat, but that's just me.
No, you mean like the Alien thing?
Yeah, Alien versus Predator Requiem. Yeah.
Well, that's not just you. That's only a sign that you have. Like,
I've actually met people who liked it though, and I'm like, okay.
We all have our guilty pleasures, but here's like my thing: support the things that you like and want to see more of. Like every single thing that they put out there, especially now in the world of streaming, when there's no more box office where you can vote with your wallet. You can't do that anymore now. Now you have to vote with your feedback. Now you have to vote with your tweets. You have to vote with your YouTube videos. And that is why I choose to vote for, with my response, that what they've done on The Mandalorian, in my opinion, is the right way to go. It doesn't forgive everything that happened before. It doesn't forgive stupid crap that they're planning for the future. But I will be very loud and clear. I like this, and I want more of this. And you step out of line, then I will be very happy to give you hell for it. Of course, I can't do that, but I can certainly voice my opinion. I can get shitloads of views and get their attention that way. And that's kind of like what I think needs to be done here. We need to give them credit for what is done right, so that they continue to do things right, and give them hell when they step out of line. And then, of course, everyone is free to their opinion, but express that opinion. Express it. Say it. Because as it is right now, there's no other way to do it when you can't pay for box office than by expressing it.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. So we should probably get some of these super chats, Andre.
We should, and many of them we are way behind, and they're off the screen right now. So I'm just going to go by my own listing here. So they're not going to be on screen until we catch up. So you're all going to have to deal with that. Mr. Tickle Trunk started off with a super sticker of I was about to say pony, but it's actually a unicorn. But thanks anyway. And then he sent a super chat saying, "Not to bring things down, but rest in peace, Jeremy Bullock, the OG Boba Fett in costume. You will be missed." Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
The timing of that was just impeccable, considering.
It was impeccable timing.
I got enough shit on that too. Trust me.
Tom, we have to share this. Like the other prediction that you made is just too good not to share. Because everyone remembers Tom said that he thought that Boba Fett was going to die this week. and it didn't come true the way that you wanted.
I was right.
But, you were right,
kind of way.
In one of those horribly ironic works in mysterious kind of ways.
And you know what is funny about that is that kind of a thing fucking haunts me my whole life, dude. Like, not even kidding. Like Michael Jackson died like right after I made a joke about Michael Jackson dying, and there's a bunch of other times it's happened to me too. And I tried to learn to limit where I make those kind of jokes, because it's like I'm like the Grim
Reaper, you might be a Nostradamus to it.
Like I'm the comedian Grim Reaper or some shit. It's like, oh shit.
Did you ever hear about
Gene Siskel was another one that I made a really bad joke about, and then bam.
Did you ever hear the story about Waylon Jennings and Buddy Holly?
Yeah. I know exactly how he fucking feels in a weird way.
I don't know that story.
Okay, well, what happened was... Yeah, go ahead, Rob. You probably tell it better than me anyway.
Waylon Jennings was on the tour, on the Winter Carnival tour with Buddy Holly in 1959, and the bus kept breaking down, and so Buddy Holly had arranged to get the plane to fly ahead out of Clear Lake, Iowa, and Buddy Holly says to Waylon Jennings, said, "Don't freeze your ass off on the bus." Waylon Jennings says to him, "Well, I hope your plane crashes."
Yeah.
And the next night, Waylon Jennings had to go on stage and sing Buddy Holly's entire set list.
Yeah.
It wasn't that something he kept to himself till that one autobiography just before he passed away or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really blame him for that. But anyway, a fun story.
No shit, Ronan. And I've seen some people trying to make, and I've tried to do it the other way around, and it don't work. So don't try to make me make jokes about people you want to go away. So
be careful what you wish for because that whole monkey
Exactly.
paw wish trope that we're going to be getting in Wonder Woman. Oh, you've seen
I was just going to say,
Mr.
speaking
Rage.
of, thank you. I was going to lead right into that.
Yeah. You know, okay, we have to, after we go through the super chats, we have to get Mr. Rage's thoughts on Wonder Woman 84. Yeah, so yeah, but let's first go through some of these super chats. But yeah, rest in peace, Jeremy Bullock. That was
I felt horrible
timing, but in the same way, it's kind of like it's passing the torch in several ways, just like a strangely ironic one. So yeah, at least the Mando or the Boba Fett legacy will live on.
Dr. Coffin Nails is trying to make me feel better.
Oh yeah.
PBS has killed more people. Okay, good.
Oh gosh.
And official chair says Luke Ex Machina was eye-roll inducing. This season felt like a vehicle to set up 5 other shows. It felt soulless, and CGI Luke embodies that perfectly.
That's kind of what I was feeling. I mean, and then this is what I said on our last review. Technical-wise, this season is above and beyond the first season, but there's still this problem with this whole, like, it feels like everything is just to set up a bunch of spin-offs.
Yeah, I felt the same way about the season, that it did feel more like to set up other shows than to focus so much on the main story. But some of those ideas look promising. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not complaining. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. For more people say I'm whining and bitching. No, I mean, I didn't care about Ahsoka before I saw her in the show. I mean, I saw her in the Clone Wars movie in a few episodes, and I'm just like, meh. I hated her in that Clone Wars movie. But after the show, I like the actress, so I'm willing to give that show a shot. And I don't know what's going on with this the other spinoff, but when we know more, I'm kind of more interested in hearing about that one because I do like all the characters on here so far.
Exactly. It's the Marvel way. We forgot to mention that even this one had a Marvel director, which only goes to show that Bob Iger's strategy of bringing in Marvel people and letting them work their magic, in my opinion at least, absolutely work. But as we see from the comments from Official Chair, who sent the super chat, opinions are divided on the topic, and that's fine. Not everyone can agree on everything. So yeah.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that's what the Phantom Menace was kind of built on to begin with. Yeah. The whole idea of it is to be able to express your opinion without being, yelled at, basically, and called an istophobe or saying you're wrong or you should just shut up or whatever.
Yeah. But I do think it's fair to say, well, what do you want then? without having any names attached to it. To refer back to my own rant.
And we could be here all night with that, but yeah.
And then moving on, Jorge Burgos Jr. said, I need you guys after what happened at work. He doesn't say what happened at work, but I hope it wasn't anything
too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And Matt G says, it's been a crazy last couple of days in sci-fi. I'm so confused. What happened again? They revealed Discovery isn't in the original trilogy timeline? What? I will do a separate video on that, but long story short, everything we said about separate contract, they kind of confirmed that. And then Jorge Burgos says again, will this be the beginning of said retcon of Kathleen Kennedy? I will not rule that out. Tom may disagree, but I'm
not disagreeing, but I think that Favreau, what he's saying in his statement is that it's all going to coexist.
Yeah, and you know why he says that? Because Kathleen Kennedy is still there. She won't be forever.
But again, I mean, and OG's not wrong. In the chat, she said this earlier. Shit like this is, as long as it works, it's going to keep KK around longer because she's just going to soak up the success.
Yeah, she can adopt the credit for this because she's the head of Lucasfilm.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think that many people aren't going to fail to notice that it's actually Jon Favreau who's the one behind here, and things changed the moment that he came on board.
Yeah, well,
And it will be really telling if the projects that Kathleen Kennedy is more closely associated with, if they start failing and they get a backlash.
yeah.
Like, for instance, my worry for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is that there they can destroy Darth Vader, they can destroy Obi-Wan, and they can destroy young Luke in one fell swoop. And that's something that she's more closely associated with. And to get backlash over that, eventually someone are going to start to notice that, Favreau equals praise from the fans. Kennedy equals hate from the fans. Wonder if there's something to take away from this.
The other side of that is basically, when shit goes wrong, the boss has to take the blame. When shit goes right, the boss gets to take the fame.
So, yeah, well, we'll
That's
see.
That's another thing we got to remember. And before the joke gets too far away, somebody has to ask me this that's on screen so I can answer it.
Yeah. K, in response to Tom's abilities to predict people dying by way of jokes, asks, Tom, is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Oh, yeah. And moving on with the super chats, Mr. Tickle Drunk says for 10 Canadian dollars, thanks so much. That's how lights are kept on here. Like or hate the deep faked Luke, but when he started fighting, or when you saw the green saber, the show should have whipped out its D and slowly changed the Mando music to the Star Wars theme.
Yes.
No, I really like the music they used for him because I thought that subdued level was good because I don't know because you also needed to remember like it's building to an emotional moment, so to go too much balls to the wall, yeah, Luke, I think it detracts from that emotional moment. I don't know, I thought it landed actually quite well.
I disagree, but then again, I haven't liked a lot of the music in Mando so far, so.
I've loved the music in Mando, and I didn't even notice the music here, which means I didn't hate it. It just went to the background script.
I've actually liked I like the main fanfare of the music, The Mandalorian, because it feels different, but has a taste of Star Wars, but not quite. The music for the robot stuff felt a little out of place because I'm still conditioned of the mind of like. Because the Star Wars music kind of reflects the old serials of the 1940s and 50s, so I'm kind of used to that right now. So yeah, when I saw like those robots, the Dark Trooper droids, what have you, charging up, and you hear that vibration, that humming, and that deep bass and stuff, I was like, okay, that's a little more cartoony for my liking with Star Wars, but I was more interested in seeing how these droids are going to interact with the rest of the characters. Not so much hung up on that part yet.
The title theme has grown on me, I will say that.
And Jorge Burgos Jr. asks or says, anyone notice the female officer didn't die? Why?
I thought she did.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I thought they all died.
I thought everyone died except for Gideon.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything of the sort. Maybe she didn't, or maybe she didn't on screen, but I didn't notice anything like that. Tom, did you?
No, I think everybody was dead.
I think everybody died.
Yeah. And Aquitas says, Boba would have attacked Luke if they were on that bridge together. That was a good way to avoid an awkward encounter. But yeah, I still thought it was like a little bit weird how like Boba 2 episodes ago was like, I'm with you till you get the kid back. Yeah, and then he was like, I've now been your taxi driver. Feel free to get your kid back. Bye.
Right. Funny. Well, and I thought like that was setting him up perfectly to come back and save the day. You know what I mean? Like he could have just as easily, I mean, of course he probably shouldn't have been able to handle the Dark Troopers, but Luke, there's been some people who have been arguing that Luke shouldn't even be able to handle the Dark Troopers, so I'm not even going to get into that. But I said, it was a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting it in the least. It was riveting leading up to it. It would have been nicer to hear his theme at least a little bit more, like when he pulled off the hood and stuff. But yeah, having R2 there was a nice touch. I loved that Baby Yoda was just all like, enamored with R2. It was really kind of a nice callback to Wicket and, Yoda kind of fucking with R2 before, and just how kids have always kind of been, enamored with R2 in general. It was nice. It gave me the feels. Don't get me wrong. So before everybody thinks I'm a big ass hater.
No, but here's like the thing: we have room for any kind of opinion. That's the beautiful with.
What's sad is R2 got more respect in a minute and a half. And this is the other thing, like I think another comment we pointed out earlier too from OG, like Luke got more respect, or no, Anna said it. Luke got more respect here than he did it in the entirety of the sequel trilogy.
Exactly.
Both of them did.
Exactly. So give them credit.
We are giving them credit. I am giving them credit.
So yeah, like that's why I'm saying like this.
But it's still too little, too late in some ways, though. Too, you got to understand. So like, yeah, I know it's a tough fucking thing to deal with.
Yeah, but basically that's kind of, in my opinion, that's what needs to be communicated. Like, this was a massive step in the right direction. This is what we wanted all along, but we're not okay yet. We won't be okay until this is undone. Then we'll be okay. Like, just communicate that, and that's what I think is needed from the fan base too, because that way there's room for every opinion. At the same time, you speak with a relatively clear voice to the studio, and they understand clarity. They always have. And moving on with the super chats, Jorge Burgos Jr. again, so thank you so much, says, they did female Star Wars justice, right? Oh yeah, better than Kathleen Kennedy ever did. Don't you think? Like, how was the female representation here? And did any of you mind it?
Didn't notice it. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't as in your face. Yeah.
That's the point.
Sorry, Mr. H.
The point. Well, that's the point of representation, is that you just don't notice it, quite frankly. And I didn't. It all worked fine. Like, again, the battle with Boba Fett and Sasha Banks is the woman, I believe. The other Mando, like it. It worked. It was pretty even. I liked it. It was all good. Like, it all just worked. Got no issue with it at all.
And same with me. Like with those women right there, they earn it. They're all top trained, and you see, like, the only one that really goes in really physically and beating the hell out of people.
The one that can actually do it.
That's Cara Dune, and she could do that with every single stuntman around there. Like, usually you have some really helpful stuntman that has to throw themselves back when they're punched by a teeny tiny little woman. Gina Carano, she can actually knock them out cold with one blow if she feels like it, and she can throw them around like they were nothing. So, well earned. That's how you do it. And I don't think, so I think that the female Star Wars was done justice far better than it's ever been done before. That's my opinion. And then we have a message from a countryman of mine, from Jan Thomas Pettersen, that says, I'm a Star Wars fan and I agree with Andre. And then he says a sentence in Norwegian here, so everyone that's worried about Cthulhu being called, like, hold your ears right now. Og jeg gråt som en unge av glede av Luke, which means, and I cried of joy like a child when Luke appeared. So, I think many had that reaction. At least I hope so. I would want for the Star Wars fans that are scorned by what came before, which is very understandable, but I so want the Star Wars fans to be able to feel joy and enthusiasm for Star Wars again. Even if it took Jon Favreau to do it, and even if there's still a long way to go, I hope that many will be able to, like, find some joy in this little thing. That's my hope. If you don't, then that's fine. And Nitsevich says, for 10 euros, thank you so much, really keeping our lights on. Luke wanted to the face of his father, and here grow. one more time, because Luke wanted to see the face of his father, and here Grogu wants to see the face of his father too. What a great, moving, symbolic connection. Both becoming more human through taking of their masks. Epic. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, that's actually true. That was like a father and effectively a father and a son connecting by taking off the mask. That actually was really strong.
Yeah, it was well done, and it has a little bit of a silly undertone to it because the kid's like 20 years older than the Mandalorian. So yeah, but I like the relationship dynamic of that, and it felt earned and a good reward.
Tom, Rob, any more thoughts on that?
Pedro got his way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't mind.
I know. It was earned. It was earned. In this case, it was earned.
Yeah.
The last few times, not so much.
Yeah.
This really was earned. Like, it paid off the whole not taking off the masks just for this. So yeah, that was really good. And Alex Asara also says for $9.99, also keeping our lights on. He's OP unless battling villains on his level. So Luke, Han, Leia, and Lando recast with Mara Jade and EU characters. And such or pipe dream. Love this, but deepfake could be better. Still solid. Yeah, deepfaking probably would have been better than.
I'm sure we'll see online. Someone's going to deep fake that shot and make it
better.
Yeah, because when he tilts his head down, it looked so PlayStation 2. Like, it was bad in my opinion. Like, I was glad to see him. I was glad they got Mark Hamill to do the voice, but it was, and I get it. They don't have the same type of money they had for Rogue One, but it was in my opinion worse than the Leia bit in Rogue One. Yeah. Like. Because I don't know, it just when every time he moved, it looked really bad.
And Ronan Medic 76 also keeps our light on with $10, saying the first 30 minutes was 100% Marvel, and Star Wars isn't Marvel. Luke's part was pretty good until the realization that Grogu is dead. Kylo killed him after Luke had a bad dream.
No, I reckon he'll scurry. He's got to scurry some of them off, surely. Or maybe as well. Remember, like, this guy, the kid had training already. He just needs to remember it. Do you remember that? That was
he needs to remember it, get some practice, some discipline. Yeah,
so he's not a Padawan baseline. He already has training. He just needs to remember it and then get back on board. So he could be back with Mando like quite quickly.
That's true. Actually. That's true. But that raises the whole point of that was what Ahsoka was saying is the attachment part. Is he really kind of allowed to still have that attachment with Mando?
Well, he said, "I will see you again. I promise."
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but didn't also Luke say something about how he would take care of the child and cherish him as well? Like, that's kind of an attachment. Those are words that didn't signify an attachment.
Well, that was kind of the thing I want them to explore, because I feel like that was one of the big parts of the prequel trilogy leading into the whole fall of Anakin Skywalker was the Jedi, are they really wrong about the whole attachment thing? And them forcing you not to have an attachment basically led to Vader happening. It wasn't the other way around. You know what I mean?
And then you have those two, I guess, opposing thoughts where what Ahsoka said in one episode and what Luke is saying here, right? I mean,
because she's of the old school thought still. That's my point. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Script. She's pointed out, like, I can't train him because he's got too much of attachment with you, as opposed to where, like you just said, now Luke is basically bringing the Mr. Rogers universe to the feelings part of the. I think it's okay to have friends.
But I think the reason behind that is because he isn't. He doesn't have control of the Force at that point in time. So that's why we've seen him do those things which would be considered, pretty non-Jedi-ish. So I think that's probably, I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but that's what it says to me anyway. Why Ahsoka was saying that is dangerous, because he's not got discipline.
A lot of his Force usage is emotional, I think.
Yes. Yeah. That's basically what it was. Yeah. So I think, like, he needs to be, disciplined again, and then he can go back, because then he'll be, on a path to not being a psycho.
Yeah, we can hope, but we don't know what happened to him because he's obviously not around in the sequels. I hope you're right that he goes back to Mando.
And again, here is my hope that if they do this thing here right, then it's going to lead to.
Well, Andre, I've got your positivity right here. Hello, Mr. Burnett.
Mr.
Nice.
Burnett.
I didn't know if you were still streaming. You sent me a link, and I didn't know how long ago because I've been gone. So I just walked in. I'm like, oh, and I clicked on your link, and here you all are. Look at this group of people.
Here we are. And
Mr. H is here. Hello, Mr. H.
How's it going, dude? You're
I was going to come hang out with you. I couldn't the other day, but thanks for the invite.
It's all good. All good.
Oh, are you not being positive? All of you?
I'm massively positive.
Just me.
No.
And
the positive
sometimes
ones
script.
are, it's the positive ones are Mr. H and myself. We are super positive. That's like the irony that we pointed out, that we are the most casual fans and we're the biggest fans of The Mandalorian we know. Script is fairly positive. Rob is a little bit on and off here. Thomas representing those that are dissatisfied. So, Mr. Burnett, let us hear what you have to say.
Come on, man. You had the Slave One following a Tidarium shuttle. You had TIE fighters. Oh, come on.
You gotta take.
No, those are great points. I don't have any issues with that. I mean, Robert, you understand this. Like in Hollywood, you kind of always rate yourself against the best that's currently out there,
right,
not the worst. So that's kind of where I'm coming from at this. But I'm still trying. I'm having no issues enjoying the fun moments that were in this episode at all. Like that's the best part about it. And I see, cool missed opportunities. I see things that I wouldn't have done myself, but really liked. But I mean, there's that point where right before they get to the ship, and then right before the big climax, I was kind of feeling a little underwhelmed at that point. But then, some other things happened that made me go, okay, yeah, I like that. Oh, I like this. And then that post-credit scene really got me on the edge of my seat and interested.
See, I've loved Star Wars. I was there the opening weekend. And the thing I think about Star Wars as opposed to, say, Star Trek is that with Star Wars, it ultimately is a space fantasy where it should be ultimately fun. It's not like, I'm not looking for an intellectual charge the same way that I get from Star Trek. And people have always compared and contrasted the two, but I've always liked, well, just because they take place in space, Star Trek and Star Wars really have nothing to do with each other. And I think that the problem with Star Wars is it has, since 1999, since the prequels started, we've been looking to have both a fun time and a resonant time, the way that The Empire Strikes Back provided that. It was fun, but it also meant something. Luke's quest to become, to start his training with Yoda, and then you have Han Solo and Princess Leia and R3PO and Chewbacca being chased through the asteroid field by the Empire. So you had two sides of this. You had the space adventure side, and then you had the philosophical side combined together. And it was the perfect balance. And since then, it's Star Wars has, I think, there has not been a balance in the Force. We get too much of one and not enough of the other. The prequel trilogy, I've said, are bad movies, but good Star Wars. But they're unbalanced. I mean, the films, the characters don't even speak like how human beings would or aliens would talk to one another. Yet, the idea of what's happening, the fact that democracy gives way to an empire, is really interesting. But it's just not done. It didn't reach Star Wars and Empire, to me, are the only two Star Wars movies that were fully in balance, understanding what they were. Then Return of the Jedi had too much pressure put on it. So the beginning, the rescue of Han Solo, is this great swashbuckling time, and the end with Luke confronting Vader and the Emperor was great. So you have that is the philosophical side and the swashbuckling space adventure. But then the middle of Return of the Jedi just doesn't work. It's all a bunch of gobbledygook. Really,
It's point A to point B, and to quote you, Robert Meyer Burnett, you and I park our shuttlecraft in the same shuttle bay.
yes, and I think that the funny thing for me growing up, Star Wars was a revelation because no one had ever seen anything like that ever before. It didn't exist in all of human history. Yes, you could say, well, it harks back to Kurosawa, but presented with the used future and the realistic visual effects, and then Empire fulfilled the promise of Star Wars by making it deeper, more resonant, and still retaining the space swashbuckling space fantasy. Those two movies are essentially perfect. Since then, Star Wars has never entirely worked. None of it has. And I think what we are seeing with The Mandalorian, I think it's still a little simplistic, but it's almost brought back by the end of the second season to where Star Wars was when it first started, in that you still have something, there's philosophy happening, but you've brought it back to your pulp space fantasy adventure roots. And it's been a long, circuitous route to get here. But that last episode of The Mandalorian I watched was the first time in a long time where I just sat back and was wildly entertained by Star Wars, because we're expecting it to fulfill this thing that Star Wars has come to mean to everyone. And yet that thing that it's supposed to mean to people is elusive. And it really hasn't been there in my mind since Empire Strikes Back in 40 years ago. And The Mandalorian has been a little too simplistic, I think. And it's been very episodic because they're throwing it back to a Western show from the 60s. But the way they have now interwoven the Clone Wars with Rebels, with now Return of the Jedi, I mean, directly, I can't believe how much they reference Return of the Jedi, going back to Jabba's palace and wrecking shop, and just, I cannot tell you how much glee I felt watching them just kill Bib Fortuna and every other motherfucker that was in that palace. And to have, you know what it was, when Boba Fett took that chair, took that throne, and Fennec Shand, she drank that liquor, and Boba Fett is just sitting here, that image is the beginning of the new era of Star Wars. And I think they figured out a way to put it back. It's taken 40 years. But okay, and now we're going to move forward. No, go ahead.
I have this question for you, Robert. Would you say that with Star Wars over the last, say, 25 years or so, that it's been a tug of war between the universe and its characters as to which dominant?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the funny thing, here's the thing that has been forgotten. Star Wars is the story of blue collar people. It's a farmer, it's a truck driver, and it's a veteran of foreign wars. It's a vet. And they're the every people. And that was the thing that made Star Wars appealing, because we all, whether you come from an urban environment or a rural environment or a suburban environment, everybody understood that Luke Skywalker was kind of all of us. When the twin setting suns of Tatooine are coming down and you hear the French horn of Williams' score, when we're all looking, we all got that moment. And then when we meet, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's a dude living in the desert. He's like your crazy uncle, or he's some guy that talks about, when I was in Nam, the Clone Wars. He was still a normal guy. He was just, albeit he was a soldier, but he's like the crazy dude living in your trailer park or whatever. And then you meet Han Solo in a bar. He's basically the bandit from Smokey and the Bandit. He's Burt Reynolds. He's your guy who's going to drive moonshine in his 18-wheeler for you. So these people, we all got them. And then the fact that there's a real princess, there's this real thing happening. It's the wish fulfillment of every blue-collar dude, every American person. We all want to go, yeah, man, I'm going to have some beer, but I'm going to go rescue the princess. I mean, that's what Star Wars was it was the every people becoming the heroes.
I will say that wish goes way beyond American borders.
Yeah, but that's
you
that's
have
why
like that in the European mythology as well. It's like the farm boy who goes on a mission and he rescues, basically succeeds in the challenges, and he wins the kingdom or half the kingdom and the entire princess.
Yeah, it's classical storytelling that goes all the way back to antiquity. And Joseph Campbell. And then what happened was, if you look at the prequel trilogy, even though you see the Jedi, it's all about royalty. And they try and make Jake Lloyd an every person, but he's a kid, and he's such an amalgamation. Like, is he a young Luke? He's supposed to be Vader. There's too much pressure put on him. It's never a character that's just the character. You always see him as the guy that's the kid that's going to grow up and be Vader, and he can fly spaceships. He's super kid. He's uber kid. And it's no longer realistic. There's nobody in the prequel trilogy that is a normal person. So you can't buy into it. So it was immediately distancing for audiences or Star Wars fans, because there's no normal characters in the whole movie. It's either the Jedi Council, or it's Yoda, or it's Qui-Gon Jinn, or it's a bunch of royalty on Naboo, or it's the Gungans. There's not one every person in that movie that you can relate to. And that's what happened, I think, to Star Wars. And the same was true of the sequel trilogy. It's all fantastic people. It's the rebel pilot. It's Rey, who's Supergirl. She can do everything. Why is she living alone in a wrecked AT-AT for years and years? We don't know. How can she fly the Millennium Falcon through the wreckage of a Star Destroyer? I don't know, because she's super. So those characters, you don't believe them. You believe Luke and Han and Chewie and Ben and even R2 and 3PO. But until, I think, The Mandalorian, meeting these characters, whether it's Cara Dune or whether it's Timothy Oliphant this season, these are all tropes that you're like, oh, okay, I get these people now. They're like dudes that hang out in bars. You even see Bo-Katan in last night's episode. They're drinking in a bar. They're not in some Jedi Council chamber somewhere. They're just, we're here in this bar.
Yeah, you make a great point with regards to the prequels, because you have the dichotomy of the slaves and the royalty, and the presentation of prestige over the everyman. Because in the original trilogy, you can argue, yeah, the blue-collar guy, he's going to be upset with a totalitarian government.
Yes.
But in the sequel and the prequels, you don't really get that type of upsetness.
No, you don't. You don't get any of that. You get no normal people. Luke Skywalker is a normal dude, who's like, he literally has to do chores. That he's like, go fix this stuff, turn off the moisture evaporators. He's a dude that we all relate to, and I think the problem with Star Wars is they haven't with the Mandalorian, because of the production, the fact that they don't have these elaborate environments. They have to be pretty simplistic because of the way they're shooting it. And I think what I got last night was unpretentious. Yeah, like I was saying earlier today, it was as if I had all my Star Wars figures out in front of me when I was 10, and how would I have played with them? Well, how I would have played with my toys is exactly what I saw last night on TV, and I was jumping up and down like that, my 10-year-old self, with doing spaceship battles in my hands, and here's the Death Troopers are coming, and Luke comes in to wreck shop for the first time, like we've never seen him do ever. The Slave One's firing at TIE fighters, and the shuttle Tidarium can barely slide into a Star Destroyer or a whatever. I mean, it was the glee that I felt. And I'm not waiting. It's not like, wait a minute, how did they turn the Guardian of Forever into some ambulatory dude that walks around? I mean, it is a machine. It was a ruin. And people are like, well, Rob, it says it could have been one of these other things. I'm like, no, man, if you show me something that's a ruin, and it says I've been here since before your sun burned hot in the sky, I get it. I understand it's a ruin. So if you're going to bring it back, make it look like the ruin that it was when it first started. And yet, no. Now it's like, we're going to go back to the Harlan Ellison script and make it ambulatory, and he can run around and conjure up.
They made it the dad from Happy Days.
It's and conjure up. It's the TARDIS. It's Doctor Who. It's all this crap. But in Star Wars, it's the same shit. The Slave One has not been flying around in 40 years, and they brought the Slave One back. And I'm like, heck yeah. The Slave One, not only, you know what's been missing? A hero starship. The Razor Crest was fine, but the Razor Crest was always running. The Razor Crest could not go on the offensive. The Slave One kicks some major ass. And finally, we have not had a hero starship other than the Millennium Falcon and your ubiquitous X-Wings. But the Slave One is the new, it has been restored to where it needs to be. It has become the hero starship that we have long been missing. And watching that thing kick ass, I have a Code 3 die-cast Slave One right over there. I bought it for $299. If you want to get one on eBay, it's like $3,000. And I never really, it's like cool. But now it's a fucking, I'm going to put that shit right here on my shelf because the Slave One became the hero starship. It's the Starship Enterprise of Star Wars now. It kicks ass. And I'm so happy.
Yeah, I will say on that point, I will reiterate something
I
that
really
in your previous show. I love Slave One. Like, as casual a fan that I am, I knew the moment that came on screen, like 2-3 episodes ago, holy shit, that's Slave One. We got Slave One. And
when it took off, dude, and you see the
wings
on the inside,
yeah, exactly.
I almost had an orgasm seeing that. I've wondered how that worked for 40 years, and there you go. One little detail, because Favreau and Filoni are having the time of their lives.
No, that was an interesting little visual there, that you have these two levels that are in sync and then they just move with the ship and then the rest of it is all stationary. I was like, yeah, I was wondering about that too. What I also really liked is when those two TIE fighters are chasing him in space and his blaster cannons like go 180 degrees and then go shoot backwards. And I'm like, I used to do that with my toy when I was a kid.
That's the thing. I'm telling you, these guys are sitting around with their action figures and they're dreaming stuff up going, wouldn't it be cool if? And yes, it would be. And that's what we get to see. I mean, hey, what was the coolest thing in Attack of the Clones? Those sonic mines that Django's version of the Slave One.
The seismic charges.
Seismic charges. We got to see that again. I mean, they're just sitting around going, we should do this. We should do this. We should do this. I mean, because these people clearly love Star Wars and they're giving us, have they balanced out and made the stories as resonant as the original Star Wars and Empire? Perhaps not. But the way they're tying it all into the larger mythology, the fact that we're getting the Clone Wars mythology and we're getting the Rebels mythology, it's dope. I mean, it's like I, as a middle-aged man with one foot in the grave, with graying hair, where my soul should be shriveled up and ready to die and shuffle off this mortal coil. I watched that episode last night. I'm like, fuck yeah, man, Bib Fortuna in your face, and it was great.
Actually,
he got it more in his neck, but yeah.
Well, metaphorically.
I know.
I just quoted Superman there for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm like that. And then the way he sat down, I mean, clearly maybe no one in real life would ever sit down that way, but just the way he like outstretched and put his arms on that throne, and she takes the swig of the bottle. You know what that was? That was Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and Peyton Reed going, yeah, it's been a little rough for the last 40 years, but trust us. We got 10 shows, and we're going to now turn the Star Wars universe into what it should have been for the last 40 years. So here you go.
I can just see Boba Fett saying, we're going to need to hire a staff for this place because we killed everybody on the way in.
Yeah, and I can just see, and by the way, Max Rebo and the Rebo Band and Cy Snoodles are no longer welcome.
Well, they're dead.
Yeah, we're going to get them. I thought Bib Fortuna was dead, but apparently he wasn't.
Well, he's now,
because I thought he was on the sail barge when that blew up.
Thought he was
I know,
too.
right. But he apparently he was smart enough to jump. I believe that he could be He jumped in the sand. Why not?
He was in better shape then, so he could have. Yeah.
But I mean, now it's so much fun to look at that, and I want to see a Godfather 2-esque epic where Boba Fett makes himself the head of the entire underworld. He takes over the Hutt's territory, whatever remaining Hutt there is. I want him to become Michael Corleone, the Michael Corleone of the galaxy. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be super cool. That
And
was like kind of like what they were setting what's his face from episode 1 to be, the Sith Lord. And but this
Maul.
is so much, yeah, exactly, Darth Maul. But this is so much better.
Well, and also, you know, the they were going to make a live action Star Wars show about the underworld of the Star Wars universe.
Yep.
They had like 50 scripts that were all written.
And I think they shot about 12 or 13 episodes before they even started editing them.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine if that's the direction that they're going to go in. I mean, I want to see another pod race. I want to see another Boonta Eve pod race that Boba Fett sponsors. You know,
I want to see a pod race that's rigged, and the one racer that doesn't know it's rigged, and they're trying to survive in this staged gambling like coup.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be? That's why I think that the possibilities, the fact that they're just doing the fact that Luke Skywalker shows up in Wreck Shop just takes a bunch of dudes out. We've wanted to see that for 40 years. You know, Luke never got to be a Jedi. We saw him. He defeated the Emperor and Vader, and he became a Jedi. And then he was a morose guy who denounces. He ruined the galaxy in the sequel trilogy. And we never got to see Luke. It's like James Bond. We haven't seen Daniel Craig just be kick-ass James Bond and go out on a mission. We see his first mission. He becomes a 007, and then from then on, he gets old and he's morose and he's embittered and wants revenge. And now we're going to see him at the end of his life. We never got to see Daniel Craig kick ass as James Bond, and we never got to see Luke Skywalker kick ass as a Jedi. You know, and until last night. And I know it couldn't have been Mark Hamill from 30 or 40 years ago or 37 years ago, but still. I mean, it was still pretty cool to see that character. Did you see, since you guys have been on, Mark Hamill actually tweeted, anybody see anything good on TV lately?
Yeah, I saw. That was awesome.
Awesome.
I'm curious, do you know who was there on set? Because I was like thinking it would be awesome if they had Sebastian Stan filming it on set.
It wasn't him, I checked.
It should have been, and then they faked Mark Hamill on top of him. That would have
That's
been
the
like
problem is they didn't use deep fake. I think deep fake would have looked better. They did.
Yeah, it would have.
They did a CGI mask, and I think because I know the two stunt guys, Max Lloyd Jones and Matt Rigetti, were the guys that are doing the Jedi.
The thing about deep faking, they have to do it at 4K. You know, and it's one thing when you're doing deep fakes on even HD, but 4K is many times the magnitude. It's a lot harder.
Well, the show is done in 4K, or at least it's broadcast.
Right, that's what I mean. They can't. So deep fake technology, they need to do it. It's just recreating the human face is not there yet.
All they had to do is just scan Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
they got probably plenty of footage of Mark,
which
Hamill,
it looked like they did. I mean, I think
they did, but they used a 3D model to layer over.
Yeah, I was going to say, whatever they did, it wasn't deep fake. It was the old school way.
Right.
I think it was like the previs, similar to what they did with Brandon Routh on Superman Returns. I think that's what the start they did for that.
Yeah, no, it's that's true. And they use, unfortunately, even in Superman Returns, they used too much of that. Brandon shot all that stuff for real, and they used too much of that synthetic, and he did everything. So
yeah, you can tell greatly when he's flying over the water back to Metropolis that they did something to his face there in that shot.
Oh, it's totally digital.
Yeah,
and it was a bummer, but anyway, sorry I came in and I totally dominated your conversation.
No. We were actually in the middle of super chats.
When you level, that's what you did.
Mr. H actually has to get rolling here since we have a break in momentum. Is there something you want to plug or anything going on for you, Mr. H, real quick you wanted to touch on before you go?
No. It was nice to join in. Always good to chit-chat with you all.
Before you go, give us your 5-second review of Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to ask you
I did nearly a 20-minute review of it, so it can't.
So everyone head on over to Mr. H's channel afterwards and see his review of Wonder Woman 84. But in the meantime, give us a 5-second summary. Was it good, bad?
It's like McDonald's. Like it was shit, but it was all right. Like genuinely, like, but that's what I mean. Like, there's so much more nuanced layers to it than I can't. That's why I had to like this. Why it's like a nearly 20-minute review, because there's so much. Like, it's tonally all over the place. It's a mess. But I was entertained, but I knew it was a mess. So it's like McDonald's, you know. I know McDonald's is shit, but hey, it's a bit tasty every now and then. Gal Gadot is smoking hot. Like, there's some good, like her acting's improved. Like, you can't do it as 5 seconds. Her acting's improved a little bit. You know, the whole them painting Maxwell Lord as a Trump allegory, that's total nonsense. He's not. If they were painting him as a Trump allegory, why is he likable at the end of the film? Doesn't make any goddamn sense. It was there just to rile up people that are, you know, pro-Trump. It's super dumb. Like, it's super dumb. It's a total mess. It's whiplash with them trying to escape Snyder and, you know, go completely the opposite, you know, way. But they've messed it up. It's a sequel, but they were painting it as not a sequel. It's definitely a sequel. You know, it's definitely not a Flashpoint movie like someone purported on their channel as well. Total garbage. That's absolute trash. It is nothing. There's nothing like a Flashpoint movie. Anyway, there you go. That's my quick ramble.
I see a roundtable in our future.
I see a roundtable like a week from now, approximately. So looking forward to that one. But
thanks for spending some time with us, Mr. H.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Sorry I haven't been able to make the others. Do apologize.
That's fine.
Plenty to come.
Perfect. Well, anyway, I bid you farewell.
Take care.
Good night, sir.
Absolutely. Mr. Burnett, it was great to hear your thoughts on this. I also want to hear, how excited are you for the Boba Fett series to come, which we learned from Deadline Hollywood is filming right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, it is clearly. Here's what I to answer your question. Bring it on. I have loved what they've done with Boba Fett. The fact that they brought back Tamora Morrison, and it bothered me that people were like body shaming the guy. I mean, what is he supposed to look like? Chris Hemsworth? I don't know, but I think it's so cool that they did that and brought him back. They didn't have to do that, but they did, because you know what? They're sitting around dreaming up stuff that they think is cool. And I love the fact that they have now, what is it? Fennec Shan is the name of Ming-Na's character.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got Fennec Shan, who's his own bib Fortuna is her. Clearly,
or his woman. Who knows?
Or his woman. I mean, you know, I saved you. It's great. I love the idea that you have these two people that have now gone in, and I love the fact that they do not shy away from just straight up murdering people in this show. It's not like, oh, it's for kids, we can't do that. So no. Murder. They just killed everybody in the palace and took it over, and to just put an exclamation point on it, she takes a huge swig out of whatever liquor she's drinking. In my mind, it was Romulan ale because it was blue, and why not? And I whatever they're going to do, I think it's going to be awesome. And the fact that it's called the Book of Boba Fett, I love that. I think it's great. You know, maybe he'll call it There and Back Again. I don't know, but to me, it's like, you know, it's like reading a good comic. Like, I remember when Dark Horse put out Dark Empire. You know, when they put out Dark Empire and the Thrawn trilogy in the early '90s, and I'm like, this shit's dope, man. I haven't heard Star Wars. This is great, and it's just them sitting around thinking that what would be cool. And now they're out of the woods. Now the Skywalker story's done. It can be the hot mess that it is. It went through hell because Disney, regardless of what you think of Kathleen Kennedy, she did try and hire really interesting directors that she thought would bring something to the party, but it didn't work out, you know. And then Disney wanted something, but now it's like they've teed this up to bring in a lot of really interesting creators, probably a bunch of people that love Star Wars, that are going to make the Star Wars that they've always wanted to make. So I think that this Boba Fett show, I mean, Boba Fett was a character that literally people loved him because his armor was cool. He never did anything to warrant loving him. And the amount of screen time he has was probably less than 5 minutes. And in one episode of The Mandalorian, they just made him the cool character we've all believed he was, even though he hadn't warranted it. And now, as they go on, whether he's piloting the Slave One or whether he's using his backpack missile to take out 2 ships, he's just a badass. So I'm like, he's already got the myth behind him. The myth of Boba Fett's there. Now we get to see Tamora Morrison with his gravelly voice kicking some ass with Ming-Na by his side. I'm like, what's not to love? I can't wait. And that just means my hot toy bill is going to be that much higher.
And I look forward to the conflict he's going to have with the New Republic as he builds this new empire, and he's staging it out of Tatooine. I mean, it's just, the potential is great. I mean, that's that's the only part of the episode that really got me on the edge of my seat, was just because I saw a really great idea and it looks like it's going to be executed well. And for the rest of the stuff, great little moments here, things that I enjoyed, but that's like something like, I have not seen this before in Star Wars. I want to see.
And look, if the third season of The Mandalorian, if the Mandalorian now is going to team up with Bo-Katan to retake Mandalore, that could be that's another season or 2 arc of and that's going to come into conflict with the New Republic.
Yep.
You know, so you're going to have all of these different, you've got Boba Fett over here building a criminal empire. You've got the Mandalorians trying to reestablish Mandalore as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. And you have the New Republic and the rise of the slow burn of the First Order's eventual rise. So there's now 4 factions that we're going to see. This could all be very interesting. I mean, to me, it's, I'm more.
There's also the 5th, the Jedi trying to slowly being rebuilt as well.
Yes, yeah, Ahsoka Tano, and the New Republic. I think I put the Jedi in with the New Republic, you know, because they're doing the Rangers of whatever and the Ahsoka Tano show. So there's immediately they've now established in this episode, actually in the season of The Mandalorian, they've made the Star Wars universe a very interesting place. And it has nothing to do with the Skywalker saga, but now they've got Luke Skywalker out there. But I'll put him over with the New Republic and the Jedi. Mm-hmm. But that's really interesting. All these multiple factions of cool people that I want to follow, and you know, more importantly, I like them enough. I want to buy their action figures.
And that's actually a really, really good way to vote for what you want more of.
Yep,
the action figures. So I'm very happy to see that the Gina Carano figure of Cara Dune has been selling like hotcakes. That's an awesome signal to Disney.
Well, you know what? One of the things about the sequel trilogy that I thought was really, you know, in the original Star Wars, they would always add things like to buy that were cool. Like the snow speeders. I remember seeing the snow speeders as a kid. I'm like, oh man, I got to have one of those. And the Imperial Walkers, you had to have an AT-AT, and then you had to have an AT-ST. And then of course they introduced the Executor, Darth Vader Superstar Destroyer, and the A-Wing and the B-Wing. I mean, there was all this cool stuff that they added that you wanted. But in the sequel trilogy, they just brought back old favorites. Everyone's flying. Why are you flying an X-Wing 30 years later? You have an opportunity to give me, you've got the Falcon, so you've anchored it to the classic stuff. Give me new ships, man. Give me something that I wanted to buy. I've been buying X-Wings since 1977, and just because you color one black or make it look closer to McQuarrie's original sketches, it's still an X-Wing. And the reason that the sequel trilogy and those characters were not cool. You know, as much as a Finn could have been cool, but he's really not cool. Even Poe Dameron, what did he really do? Like, there's nothing iconic when you and Rey was just, you know, she was like the Swiss Army knife of characters. Whatever you needed her to do, she would do. Whatever blade you need scissors, you need a toothpick, it's all right there. But they weren't cool. Whereas now, the Razor Crest and the Mandalorian, even the Razor Crest, that was cool. I'll spend $300 and get a HasLab thing of that. The Razor Crest. I mean, now the Slave One, which was really, let's face it, kind of goofy. Now it kicks ass, as Script Doctor said. Its weapons whip right behind it, the way you played with it as a character. Now suddenly, as a kid, you know, the guns would go around 180 degrees. And now it does. And now it's cool. So now who doesn't want to buy a Slave One? You know, something that is a ship that was introduced in May of 1980 is now cool.
And on top of that too, the thing that you're doing is actually part of the axiom of George Lucas, which is show me something new, and that's kind of what he did. Even within the prequels, they may not be good movies, which I agree with, but they are Star Wars, and they brought us something new. And I think that's what leads to the success of Star Wars, especially with the Mandalorian. We did see a couple of new things here and there, like that, like Boba Fett right there, leading a criminal empire. That's new,
right? And you know, seeing all the you know, Moff Gideon as a new character that I've now pre-ordered, and I like that character. He's great, and we're going to see more of that. And I want to get all those figures. And suddenly, the problem, the reason no one bought the sequel trilogy toys, they weren't cool. Those characters, you didn't imagine they had a life beyond those movies. I never sat down and contemplated what Finn was doing when I wasn't watching him on screen. However, like in the original trilogy, well, that bounty hunter we ran into and Ord Mantell changed my mind. Well, what happened then? What and then you wanted to take you wanted to play what happened on that when the bounty hunter that Han Solo ran into was there, you know, and you knew that all these characters had a life beyond the movie. But with the sequel trilogy, they didn't exist for me beyond the movies when I watched them. I didn't imagine them going off on other adventures. They weren't like, those people didn't have any fun.
They didn't have any goals either. That's the other part. They had no individual character goals. Moff Gideon had a great goal. We don't know the details of it, but we know it directly reflects the child. And my favorite part of the episode was when he knew his time was up, so to speak, that he was going to be gone. He tries to kill himself by putting the pit blaster underneath his chin, and Gina Carano just knocks that out so fast. And I was like, yes, good. Show him trying to escape and then knock that back down. I like that conflict. I like that conviction.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not going to let you get away that easy, you chump.
Yeah.
You're not going to take yourself out. We're not done with you yet.
It was also well choreographed and staged and shot. Like everything, it just made all perfect. Like it was like watching perfectly rehearsed ballet, but it felt natural. It didn't feel overly choreographed.
No, and how about the fact that Gina Carano's awesome gun jammed?
Yeah,
you know,
I like
she's in the middle. Like, who would have thought that? And she's like, "Damn it!" You know, in the middle of a firefight, her awesome, formidable weapon jams. I mean, that was a cool thing that they did. They didn't have to do that, but it just added an extra layer of fun. Like, oh my god, is her gun? Are they going to get out of this?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, how does a laser gun jam? So now I'm wanting to know, like, do we get like a technical manual of these blasters that we could like buy and take a look at to see how they work and how a jam could happen and all that? Like, you get some ideas that actually open up the world for exploration, which is what I really like with good television, sci-fi, and fantasy writing. And then sometimes you get something like, you know, what you said, the Guardian of Forever. Why is it able to move from planet to planet? Like now, like it just doesn't make sense.
No, I mean, the funny thing about that is the way it was presented. I've got people saying, well, it could be that way. It does say, someone asks him, you know, what are you? Are you a machine? Are you a being? I am both and neither. And I'm sure the writers are thinking to themselves, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool if? No, it wouldn't. Because you've now moved Star Trek from science fiction over to science fantasy. And it's all part of the idea of what they've been doing to Star Trek since 2009, which is let's make Star Trek more like Star Wars. Well, Star Trek has always been a niche franchise, and you're never going to turn it into Star Wars. And by taking the Guardian of Forever, which is clearly established as being a ruin on a planet, it's part of these ruins that are millennia old. And then you're turning it into, because this was in the original Harlan Ellison script, you're basically turning it into Doctor Who. That not only is he a guy, some ambulatory humanoid, he can now like conjure up the gateway wherever it needs to be, which is that becomes fantastical. And it shatters the verisimilitude of the Guardian of Forever in the first place. And that's my problem with modern Star Trek is it's a fantasy show. It's no longer a science fiction show. Whether you're flying through the universe on magic mushrooms, going anywhere in the galaxy you want instantaneously, that's fantasy. That becomes fantasy. And one of the rules that Gene Roddenberry set out in the Star Trek Writer's Guide is it takes a while for our ship to go from one place to another. You can't just travel around the galaxy at will because the galaxy is huge, and you've got to incorporate that into your storytelling. Well, they have thrown all of that out with Star Trek Discovery, and with Star Wars, it's a space fantasy, so you can get away with more.
Indeed, and the beauty is that now they seem to be taking more advantage of that. But we have quite a few super chats that we have to get through. So I'm going to continue with some of those. I'm just going to get back to where we were. No, I'm not saying that at all.
I will.
But yeah, we have to get through some of these. Friday Night Tights is soon on, and I know many of you will want to be watching that, which is fine. So we're going to go through the super chats and hear what you all had to say. Mr. Tickletrunk says, Nietzevich is right. It's like poetry, in response to an earlier comment. And here we have someone that I'm very happy to see joining us again. Mexican Iron Man, who we've spoken about before. We've sent you many good thoughts and well wishes in earlier live streams, so it's great to see you back again. And he sent us almost $20 and really contributed to our light bill, so we really appreciate that. And he said, I absolutely lost my mind last night, I guess, and just when I thought I was done with Star Wars, blam, today my dad is pulling out of storage my set of 15 collectible lightsabers. Time to light up and smile again. Hail Midnight's Edge. Hail. And I think that, yeah, this is, many will feel that way, I think. And Nietzevich also says, for another €5, thank you so much, I don't want an apology, just undoing of the sequels, which won't happen. So I enjoy what is good about Star Wars, the Mandalorian-ness. Nikki D says, loving Script Doctor's goatee, while Wes Moody Webcast says,
it's Mirror Universe Script.
Yeah, says, I love that we're back to nitpicking stuff. Hail. Yeah, that's a first world problem, and those are the problems we like. And Mr. Tickletrunk says, music critique is spot on. To be fair, Favreau isn't the one that ruined Star Wars, though I totally agree with Tom that I don't feel the same in this case. And Tonister Tree says, a band-aid on the wounds. So there are some differencing in opinions here. Douglas A. Burton keeps our lights on with the $9.99, saying, introducing new Luke established a beachhead for overwriting the sequel trilogy. If they want to, they can now. That door is wide open. I think Andre is right. Voice support. Loudly. Yeah, tell everyone that this is the way to go. I think that's what you have to do here. And Nietzevich says, who is aware of how kingly the Mandalorian looks in his armor between the other Mandalorian? Truly a majestic sight, in my opinion, and foreshadowing. While Kit Kat sends us 10 British pounds, thank you so much for that. The message is getting out at last that Abrams Trek and Junk Trek are two sides of the same coin, and neither has anything to do with the original series. Prime is not canon. Yes, thank you. You got it. And Just Nova says for $9.99, I think what matters is story and drama, and not if pins or tape was used for the wardrobe. Same as it didn't matter which models were used to create the ships in the original trilogy. 52 movies a year says, comparing Star Wars to Game of Thrones just reminds me that the sequel trilogy will always be Game of Thrones Season 7. While Bob Smith says, hey Midnight's Edge, can you shout out my friends GoFundMe? They're trying not to lose their house right now. Thank you. Oh yeah, we'll absolutely shout it out. Send us a link or tweet it to us or something, and we'll retweet it. That's a worthy, very worthy cause. So tweet us that or send it to us other way, and we'll be very happy to share it. Nitsevich says, I don't care about any animated Star Wars series, and I'm surely not alone with that statement. You most certainly are not. Jeremy Whale says, the last episode was single-handedly better than the last 3 movies. It's good to see Luke actually being a force-wielding, lightsaber-swinging badass. Nitsevich also says Darth Thomas in response to Tom's earlier comments. And Goddess of Whim 2003 says, I was hoping Ahsoka and Mayfield was going to join the fight to save Grogu. Get the whole band together. It was still glorious. While Cedric Taylor 08 says, could this bring back Star Wars and erase the First Order?
No, they're already talking about the First Order, aren't they?
Yeah, they're talking about them, but they can always change course. So, or enter a multiverse, what have you not. So I'm not ruling anything out. But that's me. We'll see what time brings. Thinking. And Andres Fernandez says for 50 ARS, Argentinian pesos, I think it was. Little plot hole. How would Luke go dock in a Star Destroyer? It was luck. They have already been taken by the Mandalorians. A tactical suicide. Well, not for a Jedi, sure.
Or a Force vision, right?
Yeah. And Master Clockwork says, talent without training is nothing. So what you're saying is Rey is nothing. A hollow husk of a character. Yeah, that's a good point. I had missed that, but that's actually a really, really nasty swing at the sequel trilogy.
That's the second time they've done it too. They did it with Ahsoka, then they do it again with Luke, and they're going back to, the principle of education, which is that, if with hard work and study you can learn. And there's value to that.
That line is part of the reason why I've had to take the brunt of being the voice of many discontent this afternoon.
But everyone gets a voice here, so it's necessary that we have someone to make that complaint.
And again, I don't necessarily agree with all those points, but I have to point them out for those who don't have a voice on the panel.
And they have to be pointed out. And Taker610 says, who was the mystery Jedi? Was it Ki Adi Mundi? Whom I have never heard about, but yeah, I think you know who it was.
Wait a minute, like a cone head Jedi.
Yeah. And Nitsevich also says, he's been funding most of our super chats today, which we really appreciate.
Hey, man.
Yeah,
I'm telling
go on, Mr. Brett.
No, I'm representing for Ki Adi Mundi right now.
Yeah, there we go.
Here he is, using his force powers and his lightsaber. Don't diss on him, man. Come on.
Yep.
There it is. There he is. He's never far from me, let me tell you.
What is it with everything in Star Wars and having a phallic head?
Because no one actually gets laid in the Star Wars universe. They can just dream about it.
And they don't wear
Which
underwear.
is weird because they don't wear underwear in the Star Wars universe. So figure.
Sorry, that's my Plinkett coming out. My bad.
Exactly. And moving on, Nitsevich says the musical Mandalorian theme is nicely harking back to the good, the bad, and the ugly, the springing octave theme, but with other rhythmical emphasis. Yeah, so true. And Moses Tolliver says, I'm glad we got a smidge of justice for Star Wars. Keyword being a smidge. As mentioned earlier, a little too late, but it's a start. Cedric Taylor 08 says, I saw an interview with Mark Hamill saying he's done with Luke Skywalker. Did you see it? Yeah, but here's the thing with interviews like that, they're done with it right up until they get a phone
call, really.
Yeah. And in this case, I think that Mark Hamill was so dissatisfied with what was done in the sequel trilogy that he probably jumped at the chance at fixing that. So that wouldn't be the last thing that he did as Luke Skywalker. I would imagine so. Mr. Burnett, what do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, when you're Mark Hamill, you have this legacy character. that is beloved and has been beloved since, well, for 43 years. And you want that character to go out on a high note. He's one of the great heroes of the last century of pop culture. And I understand, like, deconstructing that character as much as I think one of the reasons that the sequel trilogy was so divisive is that in trying to establish new characters, they really did dirty all of our legacy characters. They never showed our characters, Han, Leia, R2, 3PO, Chewbacca, Lando. They were all kind of, they grew up, in later in life, they're all kind of schlep rocks. I mean, none of them did anything that was heroic. And the idea that they didn't make a film where all of our characters could be shown at the height of their powers and then pass the torch. Instead, they introduced all of these new characters and degraded, and I use as the big example, R2-D2.
Yep.
Literally, R2-D2 had a tarp on his head and was relegated. He was off, put in the corner because Bad Robot wanted to get some of that merchandising cheddar and created C-3PO with a red arm, BB-8s, because they can point to those things and go, that Millennium Falcon with the rectangular dish, that's ours. So we get some of that cheddar. They wanted to do that with Star Trek, but they couldn't because all the legacy stuff still sells. And that was one of the reasons that Bad Robot wanted to take over Star Trek in the first place, is they saw it as a whole franchise they could control. Secret Hideout is just an extension of what Bad Robot was trying to do. The only thing is that Secret Hideout thought they keep making shows, but they don't have the merchandising because, I mean, what are you going to do? A Michael Burnham character, why would you have an action figure of her? Because what, she's going to hug everybody she meets and cries? I mean, there's nothing. What are you selling? There's nothing. The Discovery has never done anything heroic. It's crashed on a planet, you know, and that's what they don't understand. They don't get that. So
no, you're absolutely right. It's because some of these writers don't have the imagination or fortitude within their own creativity to actually bring up a character without having to put another character down. It's a very childish thing. It's like what you see at the schoolyard. Oh, this person doesn't know how to tie his shoes, but I can, so they're worse than me, or something of that nature. And to your point, I would say the only type of Star Trek Discovery toy I could see selling would be a bathroom sink faucet of Michael Burnham's head, where you turn the knobs and then water comes out of her eyes.
Well, I mean, it's true. None of those characters, they're not, when you put somebody on a shelf, you know, I'm full of, whether it's a Seven Samurai or some of the characters of the Marvel Universe or whatever, you want those characters because they mean something to you, because they're more awesome than you are. They're aspirational. You know, you want to be those people. The problem with Star Trek Discovery is telling you that you are just like those people, not that you can one day be as cool as those people are. Like, I grew up wanting to be Kirk. I wanted to be Han Solo. Hell, I wanted to be Luke Skywalker. But now I didn't want to be Rey. I didn't want to be Finn. I didn't want to be Poe Dameron. What did they actually do that was heroic, other than they just kind of repeated things we'd seen in other movies? And then they took my heroes. Han Solo fell off a bridge. Luke Skywalker was turned into a hermit.
And Princess Leia died in her sleep.
Or yeah, Leia died in her sleep. And R2-D2 he had a tarp put on him. And what's interesting is that, how do you not know this? This is storytelling 101, especially franchise storytelling 101. The fact is, Sylvester Stallone has made a career of the fact that he's not going away. You know, we're still watching Rambo movies. You know, we're still going to see Rocky come back. He knows that Rocky is not somebody, even as an old man, when Adrian is dead, Rocky can still inspire the next generation. He's in Adonis Creed's corner, you know, and the fact that they destroyed the core characters of Star Wars in the sequel trilogy was their biggest mistake. They should have established them as badasses. Yeah. I mean, why they allowed the fact that the First Order was already in place, that already made our previous characters. Why would they allow that? Why would Leia, Han, Luke allow the First Order to arise. Why would they be allowed to build Starkiller Base? The conception of the sequel trilogy destroyed our legacy characters simply because they didn't do anything unique enough. They're like, okay, well, I guess we have to have a new empire. Well, by doing that, the sacrifice of all of our characters, when we last saw them at the end of Return of the Jedi, they'd saved the galaxy. But apparently that didn't work out for very long, because the First Order comes back and it makes our characters idiots. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to build up your new characters at the expense of legacy characters. That is the worst kind of bad writing. And it doesn't ever work. It doesn't ever work.
No, you're right. I can think of no example where it ever has worked at all, ever.
And the idea, you know what that is? That's corporate thinking. Because they're like, well, wait a minute. What about all these kids? They're not going to want to watch stories about Luke, Han, and Leia who are like pushing 70. Yes, they do. Because they're Luke, Han, and Leia, and Lando, and R2, and 3PO. Nobody cares how old they are. They come back. They want to see Han Solo kick ass. Han Solo didn't get to do anything cool. He barely flew the Millennium Falcon. And you made him a chump.
Yeah, you're exactly. There's a reason New Coke didn't sell well.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there is no understanding. Let's make Spock, let's saddle him with a learning disability. Let's make Michael Burnham the one person in his life that made him who he was. Why do you have to do that? Because what they're trying to do is it's the mistaken idea that they have to, in order to make their show relevant, that they've fallen into the classic trap of, well, that old stuff, nobody cares about that old stuff. No, you're wrong. They do. You've built your entire universe around that old stuff, and you're trying to rewrite it. But that never works.
Exactly.
It never works.
If you want to add a new character to an existing one, it's supposed to add overall and provide depth. It's not supposed to make the old character a crutch on the new one. It's supposed to add that extra meaning. That's why you can make something like, you can make Luke have a new child and basically have that child go on an adventure, and it doesn't take away from Luke, so long as you don't have that child go back in time and be the one that is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi and trained Luke Skywalker, in which case you're like doing something ridiculous.
No, and that's why, it's interesting. I always go back, actually, the Critical Drinker, when we were on together, we talked about Creed, because I'm always holding up Creed as a way to advance, the way to come back, Creed and Cobra Kai. And he actually made some really great points about why he doesn't like Creed. And it kind of put me into an existential crisis, because I'm like, is it
the Adonis thing?
His points
I get that.
They were really good. His points were really good. And I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I didn't look at it that way, because I'm not as attached to the Rocky franchise. But he was correct. But from my opinion, my point of view, I mean, Creed did a very good job of honoring the Rocky franchise from my perspective. Now, what he brought up, very valid, and he's not wrong. But still, you still had Sylvester Stallone was as much a part, Rocky Balboa was as much a part of the movie Creed as Adonis Creed himself was. And it really mattered. And they didn't do that. You should have looked at something. I look at Creed and go, that's what they should have done. They should have shown Luke and Kylo Ren working together. And then through the course of the first movie, they have some kind of disagreement, and you would have ended The Force Awakens with their relationship is shattered. Kylo Ren renounces Luke, and they go off. That would have been interesting. But you should have shown them together as badasses. But instead, you show Luke Skywalker over a sleeping boy, essentially ready to kill him. That's the least heroic thing I can imagine.
It's the most cowardly thing.
Absolutely. And, you don't show that Luke and Kylo Ren, wouldn't it have been more interesting if they were like the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan of that series, and you're showing Luke and Kylo Ren righting wrongs, being badasses together, and then the rift at the end destroys their relationship, leading into the second film of the trilogy? That would have been painful. And it would have been something where it's not at the expense of Luke, but you're seeing something that organically caused a rift between them. I mean, to me, this is storytelling 101.
Well,
And-
yeah, like even the whole killing or attempted to killing Kylo Ren in his sleep, that is stolen from Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine says that he pretty much killed Plagueis in his sleep.
Right.
Like it's just you're copying something else, and that did it better, and it did it through a story narrative as opposed to a flashback or two interpretations of a flashback with a rage-filled Luke holding his lightsaber, and then another one who's just doubting whether he should have drawn it or not. And it's like none of these things reconcile with a character that has been established with the original films.
Yeah. And I think but when you have a corporation like Disney and their mandate from on high is, look, we spent $4 billion on this franchise. We need new characters that appeal to a new generation. We need a Disney princess. We need a hot young pilot. And the thing was, they gave us these archetypes that were based on previous Star Wars characters, but they didn't create real new characters that were like fleshed out, which is unusual because if you're going to rip something off, you'd think like look into, give me what Rey should be like Ariel or Belle. Look at Disney characters, which are well-developed characters, and steal from them, because there's always a dilemma. They always have growth, whereas Rey has no growth.
No, she wants to stay in her home and arrested development, and she has no want. And to your point, like, yes, they didn't even understand the archetypes. They're superficial archetypes at best because they have no depth to them. They don't follow a path. The closest thing was Finn, who basically said, I don't agree with this lifestyle I'm at and I want out. But they completely missed the greatest opportunity, which is he probably has difficulty defending himself from the First Order because he knows all of those soldiers are conditioned and brainwashed like he was, and maybe there's a chance that they could be rescued and saved too, and that would put him on a more interesting story. And I thought that's what they were going to go with. Until as soon as he gets in the TIE fighter and he starts shooting back at them, I'm like, what the heck is this? And I'm very glad that I didn't go see the movie in theaters. I waited because, again, I had bad experience with Star Trek 09 and J.J. Abrams, so I'm like, I'm never going to pay a movie ticket to see a J.J. Abrams film in theaters ever again. So I waited, and I'm hearing these rumblings. And then I finally see it. A friend got me a preview before the DVD copy and Blu-ray went out. And I'm like, this is half a movie. At best, it is half a movie.
Yeah.
And like your main character doesn't even do the cool thing, which is blow up Starkiller Base. She's supposed to be the main character. She doesn't do the thing. Luke blew up the Death Star.
Right. No, and I've even argued if they wanted to really kind of get past the whole it's a ripoff of A New Hope, they should have left the film open-ended since they knew we were getting two more anyway, where they didn't succeed and Starkiller Base wasn't destroyed. I think it would have been infinitely more interesting throughout the trilogy. But again, that's, a whole nother woulda, shoulda, coulda thing. But yeah, I'm sure we got a few more super chats, don't we, Andre?
Yeah, we do. We have quite a few more actually, but we'll get through them. Nerd Cookie says practical effects should stay untouched, but I think any time this kind of CG is used, they should continue to touch it up as technology improves. And Nelson Geretta says EU Luke's new Jedi could have attachments plus marry. While Mr. Tickle Trunk refers to you, Mr. Burnett. RMB holding court. Love it. Yes, so say we all.
Not like I don't do that every day. You just are allowing me, which I appreciate, but I don't mean.
Oh, of course, we
actually would say
allow you to hold court.
Speaking of that, I have to go because I do have to go hold court on my own channel in less than a half an hour.
Well, we were honored that you would join us.
I'm just happy you're still here.
Someone else, so yeah, it's always a blast to have you on, and thanks for coming and sharing your perspectives, which are most welcome as always.
Well, thanks for letting me. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Absolutely. And everyone go subscribe to Robert Meyer Burnett. And with that, we're going to continue some of the super chats. Christopher Fries says, a perfect end to season 2. I feared an ESB cliffhanger. I don't recall exactly what ESB is, but
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, this was so satisfying. And Justin Proper, he keeps our lights on for $10, saying, this finale was absolutely perfect. I figured this was where it was going, but to see it myself was exhilarating. Loved this episode. Hail RMB. And F you, Tom. Just kidding. I love you too.
It's that damn Justin Proper kid again.
Yeah, but he's saying, just kidding. I love
know.
you too.
I know. Yes.
Has he finished Deliverance yet?
No, little fucker. It's like the whole point to get him to watch the damn thing, and it's like you don't even have to watch the whole thing to get to the part we want you to, but he still doesn't finish. It's like, never mind. Long story.
I can see kind of like the point of it, but yeah. And Thalame says Robert comes in, and immediately the quality of the discussion rises to a whole nother level. Love the meta angle. Yes, indeed. Mr. Burnett brings that with him. And Elaine sent us $10 saying, I just wanted to say I have been watching the channel for 3 years and I love your videos. Thank you, guys. No, thank you, Elaine, for watching. Really, really appreciate that. So more commenting. We'd love to hear more from you in the chat and everything. So we really appreciate everyone that is a long-time subscriber and that weighs in on that. We love hearing that. And Andres Fernandez sent us another 50 Argentinian peso saying, guys, at first I thought it was Cillian Murphy as Luke. Made me. Think he also could be a good grown-up Luke. Possibly. And Sean Carter says, praising Disney right now is like praising a guy who has kicked his dog for 4 years because he gave the dog a steak recently. Sorry, gonna take more. Yeah, but you should praise the guys for giving the dog that steak if he's never done it before.
To a point, but I mean that this is kind of where I was coming from earlier. And again, to reiterate, I'm speaking more on behalf of others than actually my own feelings on the matter. But yeah, no, it's going to be a tough road to recovery, and for some fans, there will be no recovery. There is nothing from this point on that Disney will ever be able to do to win them back, no matter what.
And that's fair. But I think that for many, still, just show that this is the way. And be loud and clear that, but we won't forgive you until the entire sequel trilogy is gone. Then we'll talk. Says, hi, gents. Loved this finale. Gonna miss Grogu, but he's safe with Luke now. Feel like the fandom loved it too. Has a rift started to heal? Well, as you just heard from Tom, partially, but not.
There's
not
a new
for
rift.
everyone. It's still.
And I feel like a lot of these shows coming out are just going to make it worse.
That's my concern, and if it does, then we need to be loud and clear.
But then again, of course, it depends on which ones actually get done.
Yeah.
That's the question.
And Sister Harrow says, for $5 Australian, thank you so much. I'd pay anything to be a fly on the wall at the next Star Trek writers' room after they've seen the video of RMB commentary here. They'd be pissed. Oh, they're plenty pissed at us already. But yeah, Mr. Burnett doesn't help because he's someone who they actually respect because he's a peer in their industry. So yeah, I would love to see that too. No, you know what? Yeah, I would love to see the moment that we dropped our interview with Meyer. I would have loved to see that. Yeah, I would have loved to see in their faces when we did that because I've been told that they blew a freaking gasket at that. But yeah, moving on. Evan Remillard says, hello from Denton, Texas. I die inside each time I see my favorite franchises destroyed by talentless hacks. Yeah, so do we all a little bit. And Bogue says, for 50 Mexican dollars, have you guys watched Albert Finney's Scrooge the Musical? Also, have you watched Klaus? Merry Christmas. As for me, the answer is no to both of those. How about you guys? Have you seen Albert Finney's Scrooge the Musical and Klaus?
Not the latter, but the former, yeah, years and years ago. And it's one that I should probably get the soundtrack for at some point, but no, I should get the Blu-ray as well. It's been too many years.
Haven't seen Scrooge the musical in a very, very,
you
very
should
long
be
time.
aware of it because that was on how many fucking times on TBS throughout the years? Or
thank you very, very, very
exactly.
much.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it, but it's just been since I was a kid.
Been a long time.
Yeah, indeed.
What about you, Script?
I don't think I've seen it since maybe 2010. It's been a while because that movie's from the 70s, right? If I'm not mistaken. And Klaus, I don't think I've ever seen. I probably have as a kid, but just don't remember it.
Also says, it's not just fan service. Mando series writer cares about the franchise. Closing scene was movie magic. Work like this can negate previous failures. It's going to take a bit more, as you can hear from some here, but it's a step in the right direction, I would certainly say. And Leg Kick 1 says, anyone talk about Mando running out of ammo? No, I don't remember us talking about that.
We did bring up the gun jamming bit, but yeah, that was.
I think they're talking about the whispering willow things that he shoots out of his wrist. He only can do them one per episode.
There you go. So now we've talked about it. And Bogue says for another 50 Mexican dollars, didn't they destroy Apollo Creed's character by having Adonis be a bastard child he conceived with another woman and that he abandoned?
Yeah, that was one thing that did bother me outside of them recasting the role of the wife. I feel like they kind of made up for it by having her still, adopting him and raising him like he was Apollo's son, regardless of the situation. But yeah, that is kind of a besmirchment or whatever you want to call it on the legacy of Apollo Creed in a way. And I don't know if that's the point that Critical Drinker made, but if he did, that's a very valid point. And that was, like I said, one thing that did bother me early on, but I got past it. And especially I feel like Creed 2 was an amazing story about fathers and sons, and that's what this whole whole thing was about. Has been fathers and sons, in the respect of Rocky being the surrogate father in the first film, and then in the second film was the relationship between Ivan Drago and his son.
I still want that Drago spin-off.
I know, right? That would be that'd
be nice. But I totally agree with that too, because that was also a thing of contention I had, because I think that comes into the fact that with Hollywood, there's all this immediacy for the stuff that's happening now, where you could have easily just said, okay, Creed is
Didn't he have a son that age already?
I think he had a son a little bit older, but I would have just said, why don't we just make this movie take place in the past anyway, since it's going to live long beyond its theatrical release, and just have it take place in like 2010. And make that youngest kid him, because then you have a kid that's growing up without a father. It's the same parameters of Creed, essentially, and you just don't have that that hiccup, so to speak. And
well, not only that, you could have
with regards to Apollo. Yeah.
Well, not only that, you could have actually gotten. You could have focused more, is the word I was looking for, on the whole fact that he's trying to get out from underneath his father's shadow.
Yeah.
Like in this respect, you almost create this problem of forcing that, because, he doesn't have his father's name, and they have this big thing about them figuring it out. Well, if you really wanted to do it that way, you should just set it straightforward. Like, yeah, this is Apollo Creed's son, and you have the mom not wanting him to fight because she obviously knows, what it's about.
What happened to her husband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he is like, no, I want to do this, but I also want to get out from under my father's shadow at the same time, giving that more of a focal point of the story.
And then you address like the other siblings and what they're doing and why it's different, and why he's the one that wants to connect with his dad because he had the least time to be with him. Like, you already have that kind of in Creed, but you can really nail it home if you keep it within that family element, because what you end up risking is kind of like a negative stereotype to Apollo. And I thought that did, it rubbed me the wrong way, but the rest of the movie was still pretty good. I decided maybe I could just headcanon that and put it aside.
Well, and we've never seen the family since then, so you could almost say, well, she was pregnant and we didn't know about it when he died. It's almost as pregnant. It's almost as it's hard for us, or you're asking tragic, us to believe as much the other way too, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyway, we're getting way off track here.
Yeah.
Back to the super chats.
Getting back on track. Then Adam Wofford takes us further off track by saying for $10, oh yeah, they gave Spock a learning disability.
Yeah.
The same one I have. And when I was a kid, I was made fun of and belittled. That's what I want Mr. Spock to have, so I can relate to. That's fracking BS. Well, yeah, there you go. Well, sorry to hear that you had it rough with that, but yeah, see, there you go. You don't need him to have it. One doesn't need every single kind of representation. So, yeah, good point. And Evan Remillard says, how in the hell does a 120-pound female Mandalorian beat Boba Fett in a fight? But that fight didn't really go on, did it? If that had gone on, I think it would have ended a very different way.
Yeah, that was kind of like a stalemate, and I would say she's probably like 140 because she's a muscular woman. But like I kind of understand I still have the issue of her being able to pull Boba Fett off his feet in that one moment, but the rest of it was I could buy into.
Yeah.
Well, and then you also have the problem of as strong as they've been making Beskar now, she would have totally busted her fucking hands punching the Beskar.
Yeah.
Well, she might have done. She just was really good at hiding the pain.
Yeah, but I'm not talking like just cracked. I'm talking like fucking shattered. You're if that dark blade is as strong as it's boasted to be, they're trying to make it sound like it's stronger than the average lightsaber, but Beskar is the only thing it can't cut through. You know what I mean? So you got to make a balance of that to a point.
Yeah. And moving on from that, KitKat says, I stopped watching Discovery the moment I found out they planned to drag Spock into it. Left before he got there. Never looked back. Yeah, there's no need to look back. It never got any better. It actually did in the episode that Michael Burnham wasn't there.
Yeah. You know, Red Letter Me pointed this out. He goes, they've gone back on just about everything they said. Oh, no, the Spock won't be in it. The Spock, then they put Spock in it. Oh, no, the Enterprise won't be in it. Then the Enterprise is in it. You know, they when they're desperate, they'll do anything.
Oh, just wait until you get to gay Captain Kirk in Strange New Worlds. But yeah, that's for another video. And Brian Dolan says,
"Hey, Spock, you're looking mighty fine in them jeans."
Actually, I missed one there. Russian Bot 1918 says, the ending of this episode will be the last good Star Wars memory for a while. Hedlund, Waititi, Simeon will make us think back fondly on The Last Jedi. Well, we shall see. Luckily, we have some more Mandalorian and even Boba Fett coming, so won't all be bad. I would suggest only watch the good stuff and complain loudly about the bad stuff. But yeah, we'll get back to that in due time. And Cedric Taylor 08 says for $10, Mikey should have been trying to find her humanity since she was raised on Vulcan. It should have shown her going through the academy dealing with humanity, etc. That's what he meant to say. And Brian Dolan says for $4, whoa, it was so great to see Star Wars again. Hail Hydra says, so if the baby went off with Luke, doesn't that mean the baby was killed at Luke's school during Kylo's rampage? Yeah, here's what my point is, that it doesn't necessarily mean that, but we shall see. We shall see what they do as time goes on there. The Fessman 93 says, will they just ignore the Disney trilogy with Luke back? Well, here's to hoping. I will say,
cross your fingers.
Cross your fingers, and the future might not be set. I'm going to stick with that until otherwise is proven. And Blue Satoshi says, IIRC, Ki Adimundi was one of the few Jedi allowed to pursue romance because his species was endangered. Oh, there you see. So actually, there was some sex in the Star Wars universe, and ironically, it was with Burnett's figure. And A.G. Gundam Place says for $10, if they don't retcon the sequels at this point, They just sentenced Baby Yoda to death. I don't think Disney would knowingly do that to the fan base. Yeah, and I agree. I will say from the Terminator, or quote the Terminator, the future is not set. And I will keep on saying that until I'm proven wrong. And I won't be proven wrong until it leads directly up into it. And I think there's a long, long way to go between here and there. And with that, we are actually caught up.
That's awesome. And I will say, regardless of my opinions on this, the fact that a show hooked Andre into liking something in Star Wars, I think is a win.
Yeah, I saw many people say that on Twitter, but really, this thing right here made me retroactively like Star Wars more. I've never disliked Star Wars. But this made me like Star Wars, whereas before I've been like neutral to it at best. And when I saw Rogue One, I was like, when I was in the cinema, at one point I was like, why am I putting myself through this? Like, I should just like never watch Star Wars again because this really sucks from my perspective. But this series, The Mandalorian, that's changed that, because I haven't had this much enjoyment of a series as with The Mandalorian for a long, long time, where I just look forward to and enjoy each episode. I can't remember the last time I had that. I don't think I've had that since Spartacus.
Oh wow, that's a while ago.
Yeah. So yeah, it's rare that it's like a series that I watch and I just like enjoy every single episode of it. Whereas like each episode is a joy to watch. But yeah, that's me. So it made a fan out of me. But yeah, all right. Any final words from the rest of you on this and hopes for the future?
Hopefully it's not downhill from here.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was much better than Cats. I'm going to see it again and again.
Did it have karate in it, Rob?
Actually, it kind of did.
Yeah, there you go. It kind of did.
Yeah. Master Clockwork sent in a $5 super chat. The Darksaber having unique properties is a hangover from Rebels, and Beskar's strength isn't a Disney era retcon. In the EU, it could block lightsabers. Okay, well, I didn't say it was. I wasn't saying that. I was just saying like you have.
So that
to
brings up an
set
interesting
a standard.
That brings up an interesting question. So we saw the Mandalorian get his head pounded in by that robot like multiple times, and it didn't do a dent on that. So I'm trying to think, what the heck did Boba Fett get hit with that caused the dent on his Beskar helmet?
Oh shit! Well, no, and I was talking about the whole fact of like Gina's hand should have been crushed from punching it so many times. Was my point? Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, and the whole Dark Troopers needing 5 minutes to power up to dubstep, you know.
At least it was a ticking clock that was done well. I've seen enough TV shows where the ticking clock is not even set up properly and they're trying to do it.
But yeah, we're going to be wrapping this up here, and I know a lot of you are wanting to head over to Friday Night Tights, so tell them we sent you. When you head over there, there's the link in the chat. But Boag sent us another super chat. When are you going to cross over with EFAP and debate The Mandalorian is good or bad? They have to ask us. I've only streamed a couple times with Mahler. I know Andre's only met him like once or twice.
Yeah, something like that.
So we're not like we're aware of each other, but we're not like close friends or anything yet. And I mean, just keep asking them. I mean, just keep putting tweets and stuff out there, and I'm sure eventually they'll come up with something. I thought if anything they'd ask us to come on to that Ghostbusters one, but I'm sure we'll find something at some point to cross over on. That would be fun. But yeah, they just have to ask us. We're definitely game, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We just need the
$5 says I'm the only one who makes the whole show. Like Rob and Andre will end up dropping out before the thing gets done. If Script's there with us, he'll probably make it with me. He and I are troopers. We'll go to the end. So
yeah. Hey, if it's a day I don't have to work, I'll put some time aside. That's for sure.
He'll be like, "Honey, you got to understand. This is EFAP."
I've only ever watched bits and clips of Mahler's stuff. I really wish I can make myself the time to watch most of his other videos, because I have watched his The Last Jedi one, which I thought was fantastic. but not so much of any of the other ones. And I do know he makes commentaries on Batwoman too, so I'd love to talk to him about that.
So, all right. So if you head on over to Friday Night Tights, tell them Midnight's Edge sent you and send them some love. And thank you so much for all the love in the super chats. And sorry I've been such a whiny brat tonight. But again, I feel like everybody needs to have their voice heard. And even though I don't agree with everything, there are plenty of fans out there who weren't represented on the panel necessarily. I felt like needed to have their piece said as well.
Yeah.
You're here.
The real question is what I'm going to get into. I don't know about that. That was an interesting one last night. Yeah, to say the least. But I do have something to take us out on that's a bit of a laugh here, actually. That's kind of related to that. Let me share the thing here. And then we'll take us out on this. This will get a laugh out of everybody, I hope. Make sure I share the right one and share the audio. There we go. All right, here we are. This made me chuckle.
You're back there in Hollywood making movies right now because of us! I'm on the phone with every studio at night! Insurance companies! Producers! And they're looking at us and using us to make their movies! We are creating thousands of jobs, you I don't ever want to see it again! Ever! And if you don't do it, you're fired. And I see you do it again, you're gone. And anyone on this crew does it. That's it. And you too. And you too. And you. Don't you ever do it again.
Sorry. That is amazing.
There you go. And everyone, also check out our earlier video in just that incident, which was published a few hours ago. So yeah, do check that out.
All right, folks. I'll be on Friday Night Tights probably in the next 2 hours or so. Hope to see you guys there. If not, we'll see you again here, I believe, Monday on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Let me double check. I think I know who. Yes, Gary, speaking of, is our guest on Monday morning. So you'll see him here with us on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Anything else you want to add, Andre, before we go?
No, I just wanted to again say thank you to every single one in the panel. Thanks to Script Doctor, thanks to Mr. H, and thanks to Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett for joining us. Also, this video right here is going to be will be taken down from the main channel really, really quickly, but then it's going to be up on Midnight's Edge live archives for the replay. So everyone, be sure to subscribe there if you haven't already, and also make it part of your day to check out Midnight's Edge live in the morning every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. LA time. Don't rely on YouTube notifications because they're notoriously unreliable. And with that, I wish you everyone a great continued day.
Well, we got a mecha raid. I would say head on over to Friday Night Tights and raid there, folks. Thanks again for joining us. Take care, everybody.